Hi, this is Dan and Lexi from Dan Schultz Outdoors, reminding you to keep the adventures alive. Hey y'all, I'm Johnny.
And I'm Colleen. And we're the Keel Quest. And we want you to keep the adventures alive. Cheers!
Hey, this is Darren from Ride Paddle Repeat, encouraging you to keep the adventures alive.
This is David from Beachley Ironworks saying keep the adventures alive.
Hey, Kevin with an A here. Keep the adventure alive.
Hi, I'm Dan May. Keep the adventures alive.
Hi, I'm Kevin Callan, the Happy Camper. Remember, keep the adventures alive. Awesome!
Woo, buddy! Shug here! Keep the adventures alive. I am.
Ethan here, the Avid Outdoorsy Guy, reminding you to keep the adventures alive.
We're John and Aaron.
Keep the adventures alive.
Hey everyone, it's Kylan from Lure of the North, and I encourage you to keep the adventures alive.
This is Sky North telling you, keep the adventures alive. And now on with the show.
Hey, well, hello and happy Tuesday evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Canoe Hound's Outdoor Adventure Show, a show that brings you a lot closer to the great outdoors. My name is Dennis, also known as Canoe Hound, and if this is your first time here joining us, thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully, we make a believer out of you and you'll smash that subscribe button. And you know what? Let's go for a record tonight on the thumbs up. I think that would be a fun evening to be able to do that. Or a thumbs down if you don't really like the show, but let's not go there. You actually, if you don't like the show, you can hit the thumbs down twice. How's that? We'll make that good. Let's hear. We got a good show lined up for you tonight. It's been a topic that we've been wanting to touch on for quite a while, and we'll get to that in just about a moment. But what I want to do is first start by acknowledging all my sponsors for the show tonight. If we could, we got our good friends over here at Algonquin Outfitters, been in business for over 60 years, and they have 4 key locations in and around Algonquin Park. If you ever headed up that way, be sure to stop in and say hello. And of course, another one here is our good friends over at Kid Products, makers of the Kid Twig Stove and Reflector Oven. You hear me go on about them all the time. And you know what? I'm going to try and turn each of you into a believer, one viewer or one outdoors person at a time. Buy one of these things and I'll tell you, you'll have a lot of fun. Stick stoves are a lot of fun. Our good friends over at Hunter and Harris Paddles, makers of fine quality, hand-hewed canoe paddles. Milan's an artist out there, and he's making some really good paddles. And I always say, too nice to dip in the water. Until you dip it in the water, then you're not going to want to stop. Our good friends over at Novacraft Canoe. You know how I feel about my Novacraft canoes as well. You know what? They've been sending people around the North Country for since the 70s. So they've been around for quite a while. Great canoes. By all means, do check them out. And our newest sponsor or supporter is OTG Meals. If you're ever looking for any freeze-dried meals to take out into the backcountry, check them out. It's all fresh, freeze-dried meals, small batch, very tasty. They do a really good job and very reasonably priced. Check their website out. It always says sold out on their website, but drop them an email because they're constantly uploading new batches of food. And I think he's concentrating more on getting the food out rather than the website updated. So by all means, do check out OTG Meals. You can find all their links in the description below. Please do check them out. They support us. Please help support them. That would be a good thing. Last week, if you happen to miss last week's show, we had Richard Tosh from the YouTube channel Tosh Self-Propelled on. We got to learn a lot more about his growing YouTube channel. He's doing a lot of great adventures out there and a lot of great collaborations. And speaking of collaborations, one of his good collab buddies that he's been doing a lot of paddling with, Joe Robinette, he also made a quick appearance on the show for a bit there. Thanks to Joe and Tosh. If you guys are watching tonight, it was a very good show. We had really good response with that. And you know what? If you did miss it, please go back and check it out. You can find that in our past episodes playlist. It should be right down here in the description. You'll see a little link there for that. And you can go back there and you can check out any one of our past 105 episodes. So by all means, get yourself caught up with Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show if you haven't already. And get yourself a nice drink and just relax and watch some videos. What the heck, right? Let's see here. What else have we got? Next week is going to be our last show of season 3. It's going to be a good time for sure. We'll leave all the plans to be revealed throughout this week and into next week when we have the show. So I invite all of you to join us. It's going to be a fun evening. We're going to get all kinds of viewer participation, bring back some past guests, and just a whole bunch more things. I just said I wasn't going to tell you about it, but I'm telling you about it anyways. So by all means, plan to join us next Tuesday evening. Should be a fun night just to cap off season 3. And then we'll have the summer to prepare for season 4. And already got a lot of great ideas for season 4. But in between there, this guy's going to go out and play a little bit and have a little fun in the sun, right? We're going to get out there and do a little paddling. My first trip planned for actually a week and a half from about now. So I'm looking forward to that. Really quick shout out to all my channel members. Thank you very much for all your support. If anybody's wondering who my channel members are, take a look in that chat over there and you'll see a little symbol beside them. It looks like a little sunset with a canoe and they're all different colors. That indicates all of my my supporters or my channel members. Thank you very much to each and every one of you. You know who you are. And if anybody's interested in supporting the channel and becoming a channel member, you can do so right down around below the microphone here. You'll see a join button. Click on that. You'll get all the details for being a Canoe Hound adventurer at any one of 3 levels. That'd be great. And let's see here. Because we're nearing the end of the season, if you have any hot topics or guests that you'd like to see on next season, drop me an email at canoehound@gmail.com. I'll just throw that up on screen here really quick. And if you have any ideas for shows, let me know. It really, really helps me out. So I know exactly who you'd like to see or what you'd like to see on the show. And we'll try to make that happen for you. It's always a lot easier when I have those ideas. And then for tonight's show and topic, you know what? We're going to do things a little differently. I'm actually going to put the invitation on in a couple of minutes. And I'll let you know when I put that on after I introduce the guest in tonight's topic. I want to get a lot of you up here to share stories and things that you have found about backcountry etiquette that maybe you come across a campsite that was, infested with wildlife because people have left garbage around, or, you've been through the forest and found all the paper roses, as I call them, the poop piles in the back of your campsite or whatever it might be, just so that we could share a little light. And I'd like to know how it actually affects your trip. You get back there and you find a beautiful campsite that is just totally messed right up. It kind of takes away from the trip. And we'd like to kind of hear exactly how you feel on these things. So like I said, I'll post a link in a couple of minutes. would love to have you up on here to tell your quick story, and then we'll get on to another guest, another topic or topic of discussion within this topic that we have tonight. So without further ado, as I always say, we're going to get right into tonight's guest and topic. Tonight I'm joined by a regular on the show. You all know him. He's been on the show 150,000 times and counting, and he's agreed to join me again tonight because we have dabbled many times in this topic, but we've never actually had a show on the topic. So tonight is the night. Backcountry etiquette. You know what? We all know that there's do's and don'ts in the backcountry, but not everybody's aware of the do's and don'ts. So let me invite Kevin Callan up here on stage with me. And you know what? We're going to tell you, to the best of our ability, the do's and don'ts of the backcountry. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm good. I think it's 150,000 plus one times I've been on your show.
And that's tonight, plus one.
Good Lord. Yeah. Like, do you have any other friends at all?
I do, but I have my favorites. Oh, there. This is where you blush. This is where you put the little blushy symbol over.
I'm blushing all right. Tell you.
Hey, you know what? Kevin and I were just talking in the green room about this big storm that went through Ontario. So hopefully, I know I got a lot of viewers from Ontario, Southern Ontario, Northern Ontario, and such. If any of you were affected by this big storm that went through here on the long weekend, I hope everybody was okay. Hopefully, nobody sustained any real damage. And yeah, that's about all I can say for that. Right? That was a doozy, eh, Kevin?
Oh yeah, I'm really lucky. I live in Bridgenorth, up on a hill across from Chemung Lake. And it hit really bad, but nothing like Peterborough. Downtown Peterborough is a disaster zone still. And yeah, my daughter was staying here for the time being because the power was out and stuff like that. And yeah, it does show you the camp gear does come in handy when you make the neighbors coffee because the power's out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did notice. So what happened in Bridgenorth? I'm not sure if you saw it in the news, but everybody's power was out around us except this one area that I live in. The power was on, and the gas station up the road had gas. People found that out, and I saw everybody being very polite and told my daughter, I go, I'll give it a day, and it will be a zombie apocalypse. It was a half a day. They had to bring in security, police, and everything. People were going nuts.
As soon as they run out of gas, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't even for their generators. It was just for gas. Like, can you just chill? Like, and I don't know, guys. I'm not sure what's going on. We're talking about camping etiquette, and we're all seeing things going on badly outdoors as well. Maybe it's just the self-interest thing, right? It's like they're important, you're not, and I saw that during the storm.
Yeah. Doug Cleveland says his power was restored around 5:30 this evening, just in time for CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show.
Ah.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you didn't get hit by it, Kevin. Me down in Southern Ontario, we got the thunder and the lightning and all the wind and everything, but it wasn't horrible here, not compared to what I seen a lot of other people. What they had trees down and power down for days or a couple days. Yeah, and there were a number of deaths with this too.
Yeah, and I wonder. I know some campers were affected out on trip, but yeah, let us know if anybody was affected by it when they're out in the bush, because that was really interesting. I was on the news yesterday on CBC Radio. They're asking, what would you do when you're on trip? And I sort of said, well, you do this, but you don't know when it's going to hit. I do know when I went to pick my daughter up at work in Peterborough when it hit. And I had my canoe on because I just came back from trip. And if it wasn't for a big truck beside me, my canoe would have went flying because one of those lifts, it toppled over in front of me.
Wow.
Windows broken, roof flying over.
Dangerous enough in itself. Actually, I've been following Adam Schultz and his expedition that he's doing right now, and he was affected by it. He had tornado warnings and stuff. And he's in Quebec, so that whole path of that storm went right through.
Yeah. I even saw a witch with a little dog named Toto go flying by my window.
You're not in Kansas anymore. Anyways, Okay, well, off topic. Let's get on to tonight's topic of backcountry etiquette, the do's and don'ts. I mentioned to Kevin in the green room that there's a bunch of different do's and don'ts, or a bunch of different etiquette things that we could talk about. And I figure one of the first things we could start out is like campsite etiquette. There's a lot of things, trash and garbage. Every one of us has seen a trashed campsite, right? What have you got to say about that, Kevin?
Okay, so let's just start. There's so many things to start on here.
Yeah.
And it's not all negative. We should talk about the positive and how we're going to fix this problem tonight,
Sure.
as opposed to negative. But how many camp grills do you need?
Mm-hmm.
At the last campsite I was on, Shirley Lake, there was 11 camp grills left at that site. Now, I get it. You bring a camp grill because you don't think there's going to be one. And then there is. And then you're like, well, I don't want to carry this out. So you leave it for the next person. But 11 camp grills? Like, so what is the rule? Is there a written rule of leaving a camp grill or not? I don't know. Anybody?
Yeah, I don't mind bringing a camp grill out on a trip with me, but it always returns home with me too. Right? You try to bring something that's good, or if you are going to leave something out there, don't leave those cheap ones that just warp after one. Let's get one nice camp grill at the campsite that's going to last. Right?
And even a camp chair, I love the camp chairs that are back in the woods made into an outhouse. So there's a hole cut into it so you can sit in it so you can poop. I think that's fantastic for the first year, maybe. After that, they just become garbage, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not sure what kind of mentality of it is. Is the idea is you bring it, you pack it out, right? So those sort of things would go away if you follow that rule.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So now this is a widespread problem, tongue twister, of garbage in the backcountry, right? Like I seen it like far north where you would not ever expect to see it. You get it could be a campsite that's maybe an old hunt camp, or someplace where hunters have gone in and they just like to leave their old stubby beer bottles or beer bottles. Like, who brings glass into the backcountry anyways? Right? And,
yeah, and I've met those people. So many years I've seen that debris left over. I'm thinking, what mentality is that? And I've met them in my time, and they're not evil people. They just have no clue. It's all, again, self-interest. They bring the case of beer. They don't want to take it out with them. They're in the wilderness. Nobody else is around. So why not just leave it? And, in one sense, it kind of makes sense. It's like you're in this vast wilds. Who cares if a bunch of stubby bottles are left behind, as opposed to taking them back to go to some compost or recycling center or whatever in the big city. Okay. But it just ruins the next person's experience. And again, self-interest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here Michael's saying, yeah, leave it better than you found it, right? And how many times have you done that, Kevin? Have you gone out there and you found this campsite that's totally trashed, or even, it doesn't even have to be totally trashed. You can go into a campsite and the fire pit is just full of garbage, a lot like I had on the thumbnail of for the show here. You go in there and people think, oh, we're just going to leave it here because the next people will start their fire with it. Well, what kind of problems can that bring?
Yeah. Animals come in, and also it's just to just look good, whatever. But it's almost like what's happening now too. And I found that on my trip this fall, or past fall, we were on Obiango for the end of the trip. And I'm pounding by spots, and I was filming it for a video. And I thought, no, I'm not going to film the negative. Like, forget the negative anymore. I was tired of filming negative. But all the campsites along the way on Obiango had garbage bags at the launch. I go, what the heck is going on? Contacted the park, and the interior maintenance people said, this is the norm right now. What's going on? All these new people are going in, and they really do think they leave the garbage at the launch, so the interior maintenance people will come and pick it up just like a hotel room. I went, seriously? People actually think that? They're like, yes. They think that they don't bring the garbage out because someone will come in that works for the park, because they paid to be there in the park, will come in and collect the garbage in the interior. Now, I'm not talking front country camping. And yeah, sure enough, that's exactly what they were doing. And so it's education and then enforcement, right? So education is number one. Tell those people, no, that's not how it happens. This is what happens. And we need to really work on that a lot. And then if that doesn't work, the really few bad apples, find them, but find them big time. It's only a $250 fine for doing that if they get caught, and they don't get caught because there's no park wardens out there.
Right.
Don't get me started on that one. But like yeah, but $250. I've even talked to people in the interior leaving garbage, and I said, hey, you'll get a fine for that. Yeah, it's $250. I don't really care, and nobody's going to catch me anyway. What's your problem? Right. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm going off on a rant.
No, well, that's the whole idea, though, is to educate people on this, right? Because, I bet you 99.9% of the people in the chat over here tonight are experienced campers. It might be that, and I'm not pointing anybody out, but it might be that 1% that says, oh, I can't leave the garbage bag by the shore. You know what I mean, for pickup? And it's like, no, you can't. It's not going to go away. If anything, it's going to end up back in the bush because some bear or a raccoon or a porcupine or whatever, a bunch of chipmunks are going to drag that thing back into the bush, and before you know it, you're going to have garbage strewn all over the campsite, right?
But it's the running joke I did. I wrote a column for Explore Magazine a while back about the two YouTubers that actually broke all the rules when they filmed in Banff National Park, and they knew what they're doing. Like, we don't even have to go there, but the one Canadian, he said, I didn't know you couldn't catch those fish. I didn't know that was illegal. Well, you should know. And I wrote the piece saying, Steve Martin said, I didn't know armed robbery was illegal. If you told me armed robbery was illegal, I would never have done it. The joke about that is, it's like, you do know. And if you don't know, it's your duty to know. So let's talk about, like, for example, portage etiquette. And I'll give you a case scenario, and everybody can relate to this. When I did the Venus Link, my buddy and I did 102 portages, 68 kilometers of portages, 450 kilometers of paddling, did the Venus Link. I was 3/4 way through. I'm going through one of the main campgrounds, portaging through it. We had packs and a canoe, and these people were coming up from the beach. All they had were towels and sandals. They weren't portaging. They were just walking up the portage. We moved to the side into the bush so they can keep walking. I lost my temper. I threw my canoe down, and I said, what is wrong with you? Don't you know about portage etiquette? The canoe gets the right of way. And the guy looks at me and goes, where's the sign? I don't see a sign, man. What's wrong with you? I don't see a sign saying that. I went, you don't need a sign to tell you that that's the rule. It's called being born and actually being raised properly. That someone that has a 17-foot canoe on their shoulder and you got a pair of sandals in your hand, you move for them. And he goes, I don't get that. Like, who said that? Who says that?
Yeah. I just seen a comment here by Kim Switzer was saying, and this is one of my pet peeves too, is you go into a campsite and the fire pit's like full of burnt cans, right? Or that one big molten chunk of aluminum, right? Because, people throw their beer can in the fire and it melts, right? And they just think it's gone away, right? But it hasn't gone away. It's just turned into a big glob of metal, right? And before you know it, you end up having all this stuff in there. And it's like, it's so unsightly, that and the tinfoil balls, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of those people, when you, again, meet them in the woods, they're disconnected to their environment and they just want to get the heck out of Dodge. So the most people that leave garbage are there for the immediate experience, to say that they did an overnight and tossed their beers in the fire, because they're wasted, whatever. And then they get out of the bush, go home and tell everybody that they survived in the woods. They're not connected to their environment. If they were, they wouldn't have done that. So how do you change that? I don't know. I don't know. But I have met people in front of me. In fact, one group on the Chapleau River, they literally pooped right beside the campsite of tent ring, and also pooped over a hill into the water. And then I happened to catch up to them and I said, hey guys, like, wow, like that's disaster zone back there. And they're like, yeah, who cares? Nobody's going to be here. Like, we're the only ones out here. I went, well, you're not the only ones. We're here and we camped actually behind you. And they didn't care, right? And that was the problem. They didn't care because they're like, look, it was raining out. It was bad weather. we're out of here. It was a terrible experience. It was a good idea at the time, but we're out of here. We're going back to civilization, and I hope to God they never go back to the woods, to be quite honest.
Yeah, yeah. Do you excuse me? Do you find it's getting worse? Like with the onset of like all the stuff that's happened over the last 2 years, right? That's kept people restricted, and all of a sudden there's this big surge. Everybody wants to go and be into the backcountry. Do you find that the issues have gotten a lot worse with the inexperience and with the growing number of people going to the backcountry?
Yes, and that's good and bad. First of all, I think it's fantastic all these new people are going out there. I'm not negative to that at all. A lot of people are. The COVID campers, they hate them. I think it's fantastic that we're getting more and more people out. What is happening, though, is that they don't know what they're doing, which is something we need to fix. But we can't be negative on it. We can't hate those people. We can hate the people that are actually doing it maliciously. But the people that are not, we need to educate them. And that's happened in the history of time. If you look at the history of time for parks and stuff, like during recessions, during world wars, whatever, there's been a peak in people going in the outdoors. And then the government and also private groups like outdoor clubs and stuff have gone in and educated those people because they needed to. Right now, I'm not seeing that happen. I'm seeing a little bit of it. Ontario Parks just approached me in the wintertime to ask me to do some etiquette stuff for winter camping. That's the first time I've ever got a call in 2 years. And I've been on, I counted it. I did 126 interviews on radio, television during COVID about etiquette. Who else did that? Right? Mm-hmm. And for some reason, they're not doing it. I'm not knocking Ontario Parks. Believe me, I love those people. But there's something going on that they're not doing anything to do with backcountry etiquette.
Yeah.
I think they might start doing it right now, but it's been 2 years. And there's like hundreds of people going out there not having a clue what they're doing. People are dying. People are getting lost. People are leaving their poop everywhere. And, sorry, I'm going off on a rant here because
No, because these are things that need to be corrected. Ontario Parks doesn't mind. And it's not only Ontario Parks, because a lot of people are Crownland campers, but Ontario Parks is more than glad to collect their park registration fees and stuff like that, right? But this stuff doesn't come down the pipe. Like I got a website here that it's from Ontario Parks, and it's a whole page on camping etiquette, but it doesn't really go in depth. You know what I mean? Like it's no more than what I've got written on my page here.
Yeah.
That's not educational enough, right?
Yeah. I think something's going on because the individual people I know in Ontario Parks really are upset about this. Mm-hmm. I know they are. I mean, really, if I worked for Klein Provincial Park or Algonquin Provincial Park, and that was my job, and I saw that, I would want something to do with it, done with it. I'd be frustrated. I'd be angry. I wouldn't even want my job, to be quite honest. If I had to clean up one more poop on the portage, right? I'd be upset. But I think something else is going on to make them not be able to do their job properly. So we have to be positive behind that as opposed to negative. At the same time, really give them pressure or whatever, because we can do all that. But really, is that our job? I mean, at the end of the day, though, Dennis, I'll ask everybody out there, at the end of the day, have you had enough cleaning up the garbage and taking it out yourself? Because I have. Mm-hmm. I'll clean the campsite out because I know the next person that goes there will see a nice campsite. So ethically, they'll actually think that's what they're supposed to do. But after, I don't know how many times I've taken garbage out on the portages that aren't mine, I finally said, I become self-interest. And I said, look, then I'm going to go to a place that no one's around. I won't tell anybody where I am. I'm going to go to Crown Land and not tell anybody where I am. And that's what everybody's going to do. But if we're all going to do that, then there's not going to be any places to go anymore.
Yeah. So the proper etiquette thing to do here is clean up after yourself when you're out there.
Yeah.
Like somebody said earlier, you can carry it in, you can sure as hell carry it out. And especially empty, because it's going to be a lot lighter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's why you go to Algonquin, you go and register, and they go, would you like a garbage bag? They're giving you that garbage bag for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Not for the raincoat.
Yeah. It's, oh my God, the lights. Oh my Lord! All right, I got to turn the light out here. You're in control. Hold it.
You know what? I'm gonna while he's frolicking around. I'm gonna put up a comment here. Richard West says, "How about you YouTubers in Algonquin drinking with a banned beer cans?" I got a little story about this, and you know what? I'm as guilty as the next guy. I enjoy a nice cold beer or a warm beer on a camping trip with my dinner, right? So it was probably 3 years ago. I did a solo trip to Algonquin. It was the first time I'd been to Algonquin in probably 10, 12, 15 years, right? And not even thinking, I brought 2 cans of beer with me for a drink, and I got called out on it. And you know what? It goes back to what Kevin was saying, was like, you didn't know armed robbery was illegal because nobody told you, right? Well, in this case, I knew the rule, but it just didn't cross my mind. And somebody on my video called me out on it. And I told him, I said, you know what? You're 100% right. Mind you, I pack in everything and I pack out everything. Like I'm a non-offender as far as that, but I did break the rules, and I apologize for it if I set a bad example. But you know what? I got called out on it, and I made good on it because I carried my garbage out. But not everybody does, right? And actually, on that same trip, I went to use the Thunder box, and what was sitting in the Thunder box but a wine bottle? Yeah, somebody like dumping their garbage down the Thunder box, which is another no-no, right?
Man, it's one of those things where like I'm a very positive person, and I've already gone on a rant, and we're only into the half hour of the show, whatever. But the idea is that we do really need to find out how to educate those people to do that. And yes, the idea of taking a beer. For me, example, I work for part-time. I teach part-time at the School of Natural Resources in Lindsay, right? So they have a conservation officer program there. And so the rule is, and it's a written rule, if you get any permit or fine for anything illegal out there, you really can't teach there. I mean, for good reason, right? You can't get fined for doing something bad out in the woods if you work at the School of Natural Resources that teaches conservation officer program. So my buddies, I would say, hey, we're going to Algonquin, no beer. Oh, come on, Kevin, we'll carry it out. No beer. My name's on the permit. Okay. I need my job. And by the way, it's illegal. Yeah, but we'll carry it out. I went, no beer. Right. Here's just a funny story to make everybody, because we're all getting serious now. So I went to do a trip on Crown land, forgot to tell them it was Crown land, not a park, because they don't know the difference. I brought beer, and they didn't bring beer, and they're like, what the hell? But it's all to do with logic, like that the rule's the rule. But then when in Crown land, you're allowed to bring beer, and actually some parks like Kawartha Highlands, actually, you're allowed to bring cans and bottles, and nobody knows that. But it's because there's hunt camps there, and therefore they can't, push the rules on them. So therefore, but at the same time, people should pack it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being just like my mother, my Scottish mother, just didn't be stupid. I hate to say that, but she's so right. Just didn't be stupid. Because if you're going to bring something in, pack it out. But those people that are leaving that stuff, they're very few, but they do. What do we do? Do we educate, or do we find them big time and put them in prison? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Bottom line for the whole garbage and trash thing, pack it in, pack it out, leave it pretty. Leave the campsite the way you would like to find it. That to me is a proper etiquette thing. You know what I mean? You want to get there and find it nice, you leave it nice for the next person.
Well, here's a question that will show complete ethics, and because it's a hard one to do, depending on the weather and your time, whatever. Who leaves a bit of kindling with some birch bark under the kindling for the next person? Because that is what you're supposed to do. It doesn't assist you whatsoever. It's like going through the drive-through and buying the coffee for the next person behind you that you don't know. It's the same idea, right? It's just being kind for no other reason. And when you get to that campsite and it's really bad stormy weather and you see that little kindling, you're like, oh, that's fantastic. It makes you feel so good that you want to help the next person. And that's the key. If we can keep that going, that becomes the trend, just like TikTok, to actually make it a trend, to actually have everybody want to help everybody out. That's what we want to educate instead of enforce. And the person that doesn't do that, it's just not a nice person.
Mhm.
You know?
And you know what? It also, even on that same note, that there could be a safety thing. You know, somebody gets into camp and it's late and it's rainy and it's cold. You know what I mean? And they just don't have the opportunity. Perhaps they're going to be cooking by wood, right? That it's something. It's a Kickstarter for somebody when they get to a campsite to be able to have that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's a to me, it's a safety precaution to leave something for somebody that is, you know, a good thing. That like you say, that is a good etiquette thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I see Gord Baker's in the chat here. If we
Gord.
can get him on, Gord, you should come on because you know more about this than we do, because you run an outfitting company that actually sees people in Algonquin all the time going in and out, and you see all the new people coming in and out. So can you come on and tell us some good news and maybe some bad news? But I know you got some good news.
Here's the link, Gord, if you want to join us here, if you're able.
And,
But,
if Gord wanna do that, I know Nate is the same. He works at the same outfitters. We need to have these people talking as well, because to be quite honest, Dennis, you've heard me talk a lot, right?
Yeah, well, that's okay. That's okay. You know your stuff. So that's I almost said the S word there, but you know your stuff, the other S word. You know, and another thing too is what about like you're out there, and this isn't only at places like Algonquin or Killarney or, like, you know, provincial parks, but even in on Crown Land campsites in the backcountry. How often have people gone out there and heard the woohoo across the lake, you know, from the local cottagers or another camp part or another canoeing party or something along that lines? Where does that fall in? What is the etiquette behind that?
It's almost like having one of those neighbors, right, that doesn't get it. It's all self-interest again, right? They're having a wild party. They don't even think about you. They don't even think of inviting you to the party, whatever. But so many times I've actually seen people, like even youth groups, the leaders having massive like 9-foot bonfires during a fire ban, and I'm camping across from them and going across, and it's not the young kids, it's the leaders telling the kids, "Oh yeah, who cares? We're having a fire. I've always had a fire. We always have a fire," you know. And it's like, okay, so here's the thing. Why is a law created? It's like going through a red light. So I'll ask you guys this. I'll tell my students this. Let's say it's 4 a.m. and no one's around, and you're in your car, you're going downtown, 4 a.m, and there's a red light. Who would drive through the red light? Of course, some hands go up, some hands don't go up. So the hands that go up, I said, why would you go through a red light? Well, no one's there. Nobody's going to catch me. I said, okay, well, why was the law created for you not to go through the red light? Well, for safety, but there's no one around, so no one's going to die if I go through the red light. I went, but if you decide that you disagree with that law, where does the world go after that? Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I saw that when the lights went out in Peterborough, when the storm hit, all the lights went out. So it was when you go to a light, when it's out, it's all 4-way, and everybody treats it that way. I told my daughter, I go, give this 2 hours. Everybody's being polite now. Give it 2 hours, and it's going to be a hell show. And sure enough, it was. And it's in the news now. Downtown Ottawa, the mayor is saying, please, for the love of God, stop doing this. You're supposed to stop at a light and let the other person go through. You're not supposed to race through. And it's become a zombie world. And out in the woods right now, it's become a zombie world. It's all self-interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's would self-righteousness be the proper term for that? Everybody thinks that it's their given right to be able to do that, right?
And I told you the story before, but it's a really great story. Is I had a job when I interviewed 6 hermits across Canada that were hermits in the wilderness. And I interviewed them. I go, what would the demise of the world? What would be the war? And they all said war is on water, won't be on fuel, whatever. But I said, what would be the demise of the human species? And all of them in separate interviews said self-interest reaction. That's what was going to destroy the human species. Mm-hmm. And then nature will take over and get rid of us. But that's really interesting how these hermits have this idea that that's true. And it is true. Because who's leaving all that garbage are people that think they're beyond the rules. And what are rules? Rules are to control us. to make sure that we don't destroy things.
Yeah.
So you either do that by education and say, like I say to my students a lot, quit speaking out of your father's mouth when they're being really bad, right? And being racist, being bigots, being whatever, everything. I say, quit speaking out of your father's mouth. They look at me and they know exactly what I'm talking about because someone has taught them that what they're doing is right. I mean, I was out with students the other day and they're burning chairs. Woohoo! Plastic chairs burn. I was like, whoa, guys. You can't do that. Well, yeah, we do that at our camp. I went, yeah, you can't do that when you're with me. Sorry. And all of a sudden they respect me. And I said, well, you can't do that, guys. Like, it's fun. I get it. It's fun.
Yeah.
They're burning a TV set and we're like watching it all spark up. And, oh, here we go. Oh, Gordon's on. Thank God, Gordon.
Got to turn down your YouTube volume, Gord. Yeah. You hear me, Gord? You got me? He's frozen up.
Oh.
Yeah, you just got to turn down your YouTube volume, Gord. For those of you who are not familiar with Gord Baker is a staple at Algonquin Outfitters. At which location? Oxtown?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he's got the wilderness internet, right?
Yeah, because you can hear me echoing in the background. Oh my God, it sound terrible.
Yeah. So Kevin, we're talking about like the excessive noise and stuff. What about like occupying sites like long after you're supposed to be gone? This is more of a front camping thing. Camping with the Coles could probably speak on this one, but you had an experience with Christine last year.
Oh. Yeah. So I think this will get everybody. So it's a catch-22, right? So the rule is, I think it's at 2:00. You're supposed to remove yourself from that site, whether it's front country or back country, is both, right? And I know that there's some people that actually, I know Bottle Lake, for example, the Court Highlands, it's the prime site. It's a beach site. Everybody loves the beach site. And I've been there watching people, and they will be there until 2:00 and then leave. It's their right. There's no reason why they have to leave before that. But I've also seen other canoes come over and literally wait on the beach for them to move. And that causes friction and conflict, right? And nobody's having a good time because of all that. And it's all to do with I want mine, right? And not being polite to each other. So, but the rule is at 2:00, you have to leave. So abide by that. I know people that would say, well, I'm not packed up yet. It's like at a hotel, guys. If you're not packed up yet, sorry, but you're leaving. Right? Like, it's the same thing. So I don't get that one. I know in the interior, it's become an issue too. And I know people should really start talking about this and get online and talk about this. I know Gord is his internet, it's not working, whatever, but we should get people on. And the Coles, if they're there, should talk about this. Is that people that actually in Killarney, where they've changed the sites, where you actually have to go and book one site. Well, why is that happening? It's happening because there's been conflicts with that, right? Mm-hmm. And so the park has listened to their client base, and the clients are saying, hey, I want to make sure that I have that site. I don't want to battle to get to that site. So, and there's a lot of goods and bads on that conflict, and I don't have the perfect answer for it. So we should talk about that.
Yeah. Hi, Gord. How you doing? Is he frozen again?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Good to see you.
Okay, I'm looking a little scruffy.
That's okay. We all are. Okay. So what you being in the backcountry quite often, being up around Algonquin, what do you see? What seems to be a big problem that needs to be rectified as far as backcountry etiquette is concerned?
I would just echo what Kevin was saying. You know, there's a real need for education. We as an outfitter, but there's only so far you can go, and you don't have contact with.
Oh, Yeah. I got a feel we're gonna have a hard time trying to keep him connected. That wasn't me. Yeah, he tried.
Oh, sorry, Gord. Gord knows so much.
Yeah.
He's a wisdom and knowledge of wisdom, whatever. What about there's the Coles? The Coles are out there, aren't they?
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't mind getting Cheryl and brain farting right now. Help me, Kevin.
Well, Cheryl is
Ben,
the better part of
Cheryl
the
and Ben.
relationship. What you're trying to say, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't you freeze up on me too, because you know what? What we were talking about earlier. They're front country camping with the Coles. They know a lot because they do a lot of front camping spots, right? And they were saying if you leave wood at the next, like for the next camper at the campsite, the park staff will come in and they'll clean it out as part of the site cleaning. Right?
I didn't know that.
Well, I've seen that. I've seen that. Right, because I what I do in that case is if I'm leaving, I'll go to the neighbors and say, "Hey, you want my firewood?" Right?
Yeah, I've done that before too. Actually, it's so funny too because I've also it all depends where you are because here we go. What things are going? Things are happening.
Welcome back, Gord. Hey, Nate, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Nate, you're kind of looking like you're wanted by the law. Are you on the lam?
No, I'm just going for the Gord Baker 20 years ago look.
Yep. So I'll ask you the same question I asked Gord then, Nate. You do a lot of backcountry camping, in on Crown Land and stuff like that. What are some of the typical things that you're seeing out there as issues when it comes to finding a campsite?
Well, I'm mostly Crown Land camp, and so what I usually find is that anywhere that's slightly more easily accessible on Crown Land, such as somewhere you could drive to or drive close to, those sites tend to get trashed fairly frequently, and it tends to be sort of the same problems you would have at provincial parks. And then the Crown Land sites where you need to work a little harder to get to, such as carry your canoe on your head 2 to 3 times. Those sites tend to be, more well tended, more cared for, and those are the sites I try to frequent because, like Kevin, after a little while in my much shorter camping career, it didn't take me long to grow very sort of tired of trying to spend most of my time and the tidying up a trash site and then the extra effort because I'm usually by myself to lug all that crap out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, you can only, I've found diapers in the fire pit, hygiene products in the Thunderbox, or just, just close nearby to the campsite, feces, that kind of thing. And you can only sort of deal with that for so long before Kevin obviously has a lot more patience than I did. And I try to get to those places where at least I'm fairly confident that mess won't be there. But I think I sort of just wanted to echo what I think what Gord was trying to say is as an outfitter, we can only do so much. We really try to educate the people that are picking up their canoe rental, right? Because we sort of ask the people, or we do our best to ask people that are picking up rentals questions. Where are you heading? Obviously. We know how long they're going out for, and we try to ask them, questions along the lines of their experience. And of course, most people that rent a canoe are renting a canoe because they don't have a canoe to go canoe camping with because they don't camp very often. So, that their expertise level is not along the same lines as someone who would purchase a canoe because that's part of how they enjoy their summers, or a passion or a hobby. And so along with that, we do try to educate people as to, maybe things they shouldn't take with them. Maybe, again, you often, the more experienced you are, the easier it is to forget that you have a slightly different level of common sense when it comes to backcountry etiquette that someone who's just going with their friends and got dragged along for a weekend has, and this might be the first time they've ever canoe camped.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know that there's ways of packing so that you don't have that excess. You know, there's reusable containers that you can utilize. You know, a lot of which, you know, what about the theory of burning plastics or burning your garbage while you're out there? So you don't have, you know, because there's a lot of varying opinions on that, right?
Here's the thing: if there's a group of friends, I've noticed, and this varies differently because I notice couples are a little different. But if there's a group of friends that have tried to organize, you know, a 3-night canoe camping trip, and they only do one a year, they suck at packing, they suck at knowing what to pack, and often because everyone leads such busy lives, they sort of assume that other people have gotten this or that, or they won't be organizing like a packing list, or they won't think about, you know, what they should bring in and shouldn't bring in. So often it's just like it's a hard cooler with a bunch of beer in it and a pile of hot dogs, you know. And then of course, like the hot dog packaging smells, so it gets chucked in the fire. The beer cans clunk around and they're annoying, so they get chucked in the fire too. And they just there's no forethought to it. There's no planning, because this is something they just threw together. They only do it once a year anyways, and they just jam the back of the truck or the back of the car full of the crap that everyone wants to bring. And then of course what happens is you're 2 to 3 portages back, and suddenly nobody feels, you know, everybody's hungover and nobody feels like dragging all that crap back through the portage. And that's when you start to see people sort of get lazy. People litter, you know, on the side of the portages, or, you know, at the put-in or takeout. And I think part of it is laziness. Part of it is that they feel not necessarily entitled, but there's no sense of ownership over that provincial park, even though they, as taxpayers and residents, are, you know, technically owners of that park. And I think that's part of it. Is there's no pride, there's no ownership, there's no attachment, there's no identifying with that area. And so it's easy for someone that only goes on that trip once a year to say, meh, what does it matter if I leave my $20 Walmart camp chair on the side of the portage? Doesn't to them. Yeah. So
that's another item I see a lot of, are the those convertible type of chairs, not the lightweight ones, but like, you know, the ones with the metal thing, and they rip, and then people just take them and they like to chuck them into the bush. You know what I mean? Yeah. Thinking that it's just going to go away, or the dead tent and big cushion and mattress, and, you know, it's amazing at some of the stuff people leave out there.
It's a big thing. Oh, look, they're here.
Yeah.
I got it.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
It's in my head now. I need to spit it out because I just got back from the park. 2 things before the calls go on, because they're more specialized at this sort of thing. But what happened on Charlotte Lake? A couple of things. One was there was some young couple that actually was coming back, and they did exactly the same thing. They had that sort of buy the stuff and then toss it. What they were doing is pushing it down the outhouse hole like a lawn chair, right? And I went up to, I won't say her name, but I know her, the woman at the gatehouse there, that she's been there for years. And I said, hey, you know, and she goes, oh, and she's so frustrated with her job, right? She goes, I deal with this every day. And what she did was really interesting. She locked them in. She closed the gate so they couldn't leave. She called the park warden for him to come in to find them. It's going to go to court because the guy that got locked in is suing them for locking him in. And he'll win. He'll win. And that's so wrong. But the other good thing, sorry, the calls, the good thing, because you got to go the good, is we're going into Shirley as well. And there were some young guys, very first canoe trip it looked like, and all their canoes were spread out at the put-in. And of course, my buddies were like, oh, come on, I hate people. Oh, it's our first time out, whatever. This is not what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to put all your canoes to the side when you're doing your first load, so then if anybody else shows up, they can get to the shore, right? But they didn't do that. They came across, I looked at them, and, you know, they looked like it was their very first trip. And my buddy, Speedo Man, wanted to go nuts on them. And I said, just chill, maybe because I deal with youth, right? And I said, hey, guys, next time, could you just move your canoes to the side? Because that's what we kind of do out here, so we can get, oh, okay, man, okay, that's great. And then 3 days later, we met them on the portage again, and they had done that. So there's a good point. They're not all evil, right? And speaking of evil, camping the coals, go for it.
No, we're watching this. It's all backcountry etiquette, and as you know, we're front country campers now. Backcountry's a long time ago for us, but this is interesting stuff. Little differences that happen, like we used to leave wood all the time for the next person to come, because it'd be great. You'd show up at a campsite, there's a little bit of wood left there for you. That was great. But now what we're finding is, park staff, if you're front country camping at a provincial park, if you leave wood behind, oftentimes the park staff will go around and they'll gather up that wood. Now, I don't know what they're doing with it, if they're going to resell it or what they're going to do with it, but they're taking it. So now the best plan is to just go to the next site over. If you're leaving and you've got wood left behind, left over, just go to the campers next to you and say, hey, here's some wood, and help them out that way. We don't leave it behind on the site anymore because we have no idea where it's going to go. Probably back for sale.
I usually just go tell them there's some wood there if they want it. Right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to carry it too.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. But the etiquette in the front country camping is just, it's so bad right now. There's so many new people that it's just out of control. We were just at Inverhuron Provincial Park. We got back this afternoon, and we saw a lot, and we actually started working on a video that we're going to be doing. I don't know when it's going to come out, but we started doing camping etiquette for front country camping. We filmed a little bit of it there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, front country also has its own bad etiquette that you face. Like there again, I've camped at Turkey Point and numerous other front country camping places through Ontario parks. And there again, you always get the, and I won't even put an age to them, but you always get the partiers out there that are hooting and hollering 3 or 4 in the morning when you're in your non-soundproof tent, and you might have a young family, children that are awakened by this, or you can't sleep yourself because they're hooting and hollering. So they're front country has its own set of etiquette rules that should be followed as well, right?
And the fireworks that were going off throughout the weekend. Just so much fireworks.
All the poor dogs.
Yeah, the poor dogs that are terrified of the fireworks. We were with another family. They had a baby. Well, it's the loud booming and stuff like that. It's illegal to shoot off fireworks in a provincial park, but people do it all the time. They'll go down to the beach and shoot off fireworks. And I don't see anybody stopping them, though. I just don't see anybody stopping them, really.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest one that I have an issue with that you guys can help deal with is someone walking through your site at front country. So how do you stop that? Because I don't get it. Because I'm more backcountry and I go front country with my partner Christine, and I see this happening. Like literally walk right past us, and she's like, "Kevin, calm down." I went, "Calm down? I'm not calming down." And so, first of all, why do we get so uptight about it, and what are we going to do about it?
Well, I think when you're camping, you're like, when you're home, you lock everything. Your garage is locked, your house is locked, everything is locked. You don't expect people to come walking in your backyard where you usually have a fence and things like that. When you're camping, you don't expect to be ripped off. You don't expect people to steal from you. And a lot of people are a lot more open, I guess, when camping. So there's a lot of gear, especially front country camping, and you got an RV. There's a lot of gear sitting outside. There's camp chairs, there's barbecues, there's coolers, there's all sorts of stuff that might be there in the middle of the day. Plus your RV compartments that might be open or closed or whatever. If somebody's walking onto your campsite, are they there to steal from you, or are they just there to cut through? But they're going through all your belongings as they're walking through. And I don't know how to get them to stop doing that, but I sure don't like to see when somebody goes walking through my campsite. And now it's usually when nobody's there. I haven't had anybody walk through my site while I've been there.
I have. They seriously, when you watch them, their facial expressions, they're like, "What is your problem?" It's the closest way to get to the beach. So what's your problem?
Yeah, they're testing you.
Yeah. No, I've never experienced that where we've actually been at the site and somebody has cut through. Well, other than kids running and playing a game or something like that.
Oh, kids are kids. Like I don't go nuts on kids. Well, I mean, maybe their parents, but Nate and Kim the Coles too. Like the one thing that's going on now. In fact, I'm going to be on CBC next week talking about it. That's on the rise. Are campers that are getting robbed. So lately, there's been a lot of robberies in the front country, but also I did not know this, but there's been an increase in robberies in the backcountry where they've gone fishing for the day, come back to their backcountry site, and it's completely gone. So what's going on with that, Nate, in the backcountry?
I don't know, but if anyone would like to steal my 2008 Subaru from a back road somewhere, you're more than welcome to. That's just fine.
He's going to leave the keys underneath the front door.
The keys will be in the gas cap.
Now, you know what? Gear costs. People are just bad these days, right? When it comes to that.
Yeah, you know what I think? And the other thing is I know someone this has happened to at a sort of semi backcountry site, a non-operational drive-in site. Thankfully, it's never happened to me, but I am starting to hear a little bit more of it. And I think part of it is because camping has become in the last 3 years kind of so ubiquitous in Canadian culture because of everyone wanting to get out there, that just like anything else, people associate nice camping equipment with money. People now know that nice gear is worth something. You know what I mean? So it's they know because maybe they've gone camping a couple times and they've looked at some cool gear at sale or Mech or wherever. They know that stuff costs a lot of money, and so all of a sudden to the wrong crowd, that can be an attractive proposition when you're paddling by someone's site and you're the only canoe on the lake and you see that nice tent. You know, there's a bunch of goodies in there. What I do is on some sites that I go to that I know people may cruise by now and then, is I bring zip ties and anything that I don't want people to see and that I'd rather them not be able to get at. And this is just a deterrent. But oftentimes the deterrent can be enough for that casual opportunist, and I'll zip tie my tent zippers shut. It's an easy one.
Yep. Locks are made for honest people, right?
Yep. So, and the zip tie is just a quick, easy deterrent. If someone really wants your stuff, they're going to get it. But maybe to that casual person that may be looking at an opportunity, you know, they go, oh yeah, someone actually thought I might do this. You know what'll happen one day, Nate, is you'll forget that you also put your knife in there, your clippers. You're gonna have to probably get that thing open with your teeth, right?
But you guys would both be able to answer this though too. Isn't it the point though where when you have to do that, Nate, or you have to do something in the front country to protect yourself? Don't you just want to walk away from camping then? Because that takes away the complete reason why you're there.
No, and this is why, Kevin, because I live in a small town, but I still lock my car.
Yeah. Okay. What about this then? So are you guys also saying both front country and back country, we need a lot more park wardens with a lot of more guns? Is that the answer?
I don't know about the guns, but a lot more park wardens for sure.
We just need to loosen up the bear spray laws, Kevin.
I have noticed in front country the last 2 years, and there's got to be a political reason for it that I don't know about, but there isn't a lot of park wardens wandering through the night in front country, and the OPP will show up at 10 in the morning when something happens because someone is called, but there's no park warden. So something is going on that they're not arriving, probably because of COVID, whatever. I hope that changes. But backcountry, honest to God, guys, like I've been in Algonquin how many times? I probably have seen one park warden, and it was at Canoe Lake Access Point on the beach. In the Kawartha Highlands, that's different. I've actually seen a lot of park wardens, and I really cheer them on when I see them. Here's my permit. Here's my fishing license. Great. I've got no problem with you guys being here. So what's going on? Do you guys know more than I? Or
I don't know. All I know is that, you know, it's turned into kind of the atmosphere out there where we're asking park wardens to do a cop's job without the same amount of training. And that's True. Sort of, you know, without the same amount of pay and without the same amount of training, you're literally asking them oftentimes to do a police officer's job. And I think there's got to be, you know, there's got to be something to that angle.
Yeah, I know conservation officers get the same training because I've seen that at the school I work at. Park wardens, I don't know much about that. It makes sense if they don't have the training, they're going to call the OPP in, and if there's a fist fight like at a campground, the OPP are like, "Oh, here we go again. It's a lovely night." But at the same time, if I'm camped beside them and someone's having a fist fight at 4 a.m. and driving around drunk, like I dealt with that last year at a campground in Southern Ontario, it's like, this is wrong. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to camp anymore.
Yeah.
And because they've won, I've lost. And so therefore, what am I going to do? Because if they're all winning, to the point when I was at Sleeping Giant Provincial Park, there was insane things going on. Like cutting trees beside me, drunk out of their minds at 2 in the afternoon, walking past me naked. And I went to the park warden and I go, "You need to do something. We're not going to do anything right now, Kevin." I was like, then I said, "I'm leaving. I'm not going to camp here, and I want my money back." And don't be so uptight, Kevin. I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn my camera on now. I'm going to film this, and I don't because that's wrong. Because I believe in Ontario Parks and I believe in what they're doing, but something's going on now that it needs to be stopped because they're winning. Those self-interest people, the very small, limited people in the world, very small percentage, are winning, and that's wrong. That's my rant. Oh my Lord.
A lot of it comes back to just the cutbacks, right? This whole pilot program that Ontario Parks has going on right now with trying to get things to be same pricing, front country versus back country, right? And it all has to do with them trying to make their budget because they are a private entity now, aren't they? Or like they're supposed to be self-sustainable from the Ontario government.
Yeah, in 1999 they left that. I mean, still they are working for us, but they're supposed to make money, right? Yeah. The Coles know more about this than we do.
Well, no, I was just going to say with front country camping, I know the wardens aren't working like 24 hours a day. They don't have somebody on. We were at Point Farms a couple of years ago, and there was a guy who was in a tent and had his music blasting. It was all 70s rock. And I think he was a 70s rocker because he was singing to it. And he was singing louder than the music. And as the evening went on, his singing got more slurred and worse. And he was drunk out of his mind. And it started at about 7 p.m. At 11 p.m., he was still, well, the music was still going, but he finally had faded. But you could hear it over the entire campground. It was so loud. And so I tried to contact somebody from the park. There's nobody to contact at the park. The only way to do it would be to actually contact the OPP or whoever polices that area. But there's nobody to contact at the park. And I ended up going over there, and this could cause a real problem. But I went over there to try to talk to him. Really, the guy was in his tent. He couldn't wake up. His portable stereo was blasting. I just turned it off. And came back, but he could have awakened and seen me there, and it could have been a bad situation. But the entire park was impacted by it, and especially us that were right beside him. So then the next morning, I finally saw a warden, and then told the warden about it, and the warden spoke to him. Did he stay there that night? I think he was still there again the next night.
Wow! Yeah. Wow.
Let's try and flip this coin. Let's get into maybe some good etiquette, things that we should be like positive reinforcement, like how to do things properly. Let's say, for instance, and to paraphrase Nate there, he says something I do, and I thought it'd be a perfect segue into talking about pooping in the backcountry and stuff like that. Proper ways to do it, right? Because everybody, there's a great book out there called How to Shit in the Woods. If anybody's not read it, I strongly recommend you get it or get the Audible version even. Listen to it in your car. It's a really good listen. Do's and don'ts when it comes to pooping in the backcountry and the other things. Nate mentioned diapers and other sanitary items. How should all this stuff be handled or not handled? Kevin,
that's a really crappy conversation to have. I'll let the Coles talk about front country because what's happening in front country right now too is people are pooping where they're not supposed to be pooping, but they'll let you know about that. But backcountry, it's got to happen. First of all, it's going to happen. So I always, with the people I'm with, especially youth groups, I'll just say, okay, whoever poops the first gets a prize. They get a Snickers bar, right? So to make sure it's a natural thing to do, then you educate them on how to do it properly. If there's a large group, the Thunderbox is the best bet, even though really nobody wants to do that. But if there's a large group, if they all go scatter and do those toilet paper mounds, it's probably not the best, even though environmentally wise in a small group, it's better than just pooping in a big hole. But it is better to do it in the Thunderbox, Treasure Chest, Boombox, what other names are they called?
Thunderbox, the Privy.
Yeah, Privy. But in theory, what I do, because I poop a lot in the woods, to be quite honest, I actually poop better outdoors than I do at home. And I get up, the dog was with me. I go way back in the far woods, at least 50 meters or more, off a trail, wander off in the woods, do a cat scratch. So a cat scratch is a small hole, but not deep hole. So it's the topsoil, and I poop. And if it's the wintertime, I'll burn my toilet paper. In the summer, in spring, I won't, because I'll cause a forest fire. But I'll poop, and then I'll put the topsoil on top of it so nobody sees it. And in 2 weeks' time, well, actually in 2 days' time, the feces will start decomposing into soil. In 2 weeks' time, the toilet paper will start. And toilet paper is the problem, to be quite honest. It's not feces, because it will turn into soil. And everything's fine. But if everybody's doing that because they're afraid of being out in the woods, they don't go 50 meters. They go what they think 50 meters, but they'll go 10 meters or 5 meters back in the woods, and they'll do it all in the same spot. Or they'll lift a rock, poop under the rock, put the rock on top, right? Or they'll poop over a log, or they'll poop over a cliff into the water, because nobody will see it. And it is okay if one person does that at a campsite per year, like if it's an interior site and nobody uses. But if someone's on that site every single night, like a hotel room, it's going to be a problem. So it all, again, comes to think of the person that's coming to the site after you. Here's the thing that everybody should know, too, about it, just to be safety wise. When you're getting your water at a campsite, a backcountry site, never, ever, ever get the water where it's easy to get the water. So where the canoes are, where the beach is, do not gather your water there, even if you filter or boil it, because that is where everybody has gone poop, and they've gone and washed their hands in the water, or they've washed their dishes in the water. And you're not supposed to do that, by the way. You're supposed to wash the dishes away from the shoreline, put the gray water back in the bush into a hole like the poop. But they will do that. And when I've guided, I remember the one guy, I did not notice until the third day. He went to poop, and he was cleaning his hands with my dish towel.
Oh.
And I looked at him, I go, have you been doing that for 3 days? He goes, yep. What's the problem with you, Kevin? I went, I don't have a problem. You're a nutcase. Like, why would you think that you'd clean your hands after pooping with my dish towel that I'm feeding everybody with? What are you thinking? Right? So there's that issue. So pooping, make sure it happens. Make sure it's organized. And the other thing I do too is I hang a bag with hand sanitizer, a red bandana, and toilet paper in a tree. And I said, if that bag is gone, that means someone's gone to the backwoods and are going, and then you don't go back until that bag is hung on the tree again. So that gives someone some privacy. So they don't hastily go in, I gotta poop, and poop really quickly and then run back to the campsite. So keep it organized and give them gifts, give them prizes for the biggest poop, longest poop.
So there you go, everybody. Go camping with Kevin, because he brings all the toilet paper and the hand sanitizer, right? He's got the bag full of ass wipes.
Oh gosh.
What about, like, okay, because there are a lot of say, for instance, younger families that take children out, and they do have diapers, as Nate mentions. He's found it in fire pits before. Many of us have probably been in the backcountry and found lady disposables out there, we'll call it, and all the toilet paper roses. How do you what's the best thing to do when it comes to sanitary products and diapers and things of that sort?
Well, first of all, Dennis, women know what you're talking about, so just call them what they are. Okay?
Uncomfortable for me to talk about, even after having 2 grown-up daughters. So, oh no, Kevin's going to get props.
Oh dear.
So Nate, what do you do when you find that stuff in the bush like that?
I used to scoop it out. I always, no matter what, I always carry an extra couple of plastic bags with me, and usually I'll at least do a little cleanup if it's fairly obvious. Sometimes I go to Craneland sites that are a little harder to get to, and once you start walking around the perimeter of the site, if you know what you're looking for, you will still find old garbage mounds, and like we're talking like bottles and cans from like the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, when people just did that. You found the mound of garbage that everyone else was using at the campsite, and that's where it all went. And so,
all covered by
I've
moss
found
and pine needles, right?
Yeah, I've found garbage mounds underneath the duff on the forest floor, and that stuff I won't clean up because there's literally a canoe full of it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if there's stuff in the fire pit or stuff kind of very obvious on the site, I'll usually still tidy it up. But if it's a big mess and just disgusting, I don't want to. Yeah, I'm out of that.
Okay. Mosen's, come on, say with me, guys. They're called tampons. And that's the thing that befuddles me. Like, even the same thinking of having diapers or tampons and stuff in the backcountry. It's inevitable. They're going to be out there. They're a needed product out there, right? In some cases, but you know what? There's still a way to get it out, right? You put it in a bag, Ziploc bag, and you keep it stored separately. Actually, Michaela Ferguson did an awesome blog article on that one time. Saying the best way to get these things out and stuff like that. It's about Ziploc baggie. Zip it, put it in its own separate dry bag or something that's identified. It's like your pee bottle, right? Your pee bottle's identified, then you can have your dry bag as well, right?
Yeah. I'll bring that. Or when Kyla, my daughter, was a baby, we would have one of those mini barrels, and that's where those went. And also we washed the diapers too. We did both. But just to warn you guys, the tampons out there too that are buried in the soil too. If you want to bear attractant, and check the sources, I guarantee you will have a bear in camp if you start doing that, because they'll come in and eat that. Okay, so not to terrify everybody, but if you want a bear in camp and cause a problem, bury your tampons in the backwoods right behind your tent. Good luck to you.
Yeah, just not a good thing, right? It's what about storing that stuff though while you're there in a campsite? Say, for instance, if you're base camping, right? Should you be hanging the stuff in a tree, in a like you say, a separate barrel or something to keep it away so it's not an attractant?
Is Cliff Jacobson here tonight?
No Cliff.
No. Okay, well, Nate, you started then. Go ahead.
Oh man, Kevin, this is what lawyers call entrapment.
Well, we're not all like the Coles and we put everything in our RV while we're watching TV at night.
I'll just say that the general rule of thumb should be that if it smells, or if you think it could smell to someone with a much stronger sense of smell than you, is to seal it up and get it away from your campsite. And whether your personal preference is to hang it by regulation a certain amount of meters up a tree and out a tree, or to just attach it to the base of a tree far enough away from your campsite, that will be your sort of personal opinion and preference, and whatever Kevin and Cliff are calling their argument these days about it.
I will tell you the truth. Last week, I did get caught with my buddies, and I'm glad they didn't film it. It was quite hilarious. We're all excited to be out, and I am tripping with Ashley, which only goes out once a year with me. The amount of stuff he brings and food is just stupid. Okay, so I have a full 60-liter barrel, and it's just for him and I. Everybody else has their own food, right? And we're out for 3 nights or 4 nights, and I couldn't lift it. I couldn't lift that out of the canoe, right? I mean, I had my stuff, and it was like this, and then he had his, right? So the first night, we go to deal with the food and in barrels, and here's my rule. And if you don't know about the whole Cliff Jigginson and I thing, like he does not hang his food, I hang my food. And then he goes, well, you know, why would you? Of course, he makes sense because he goes to the far north where bears aren't habituated, and there's no trees to hang his food anyway. But he also is in front of an audience. And I go, look, Cliff, I'm in front of an audience too, but I'm at the Toronto show, and the majority of those people camp in Algonquin and Killarney where bears are habituated. So if I tell them just to put your food in the back bush, then that means that they're going to put their barrel right beside their tent. Like, sorry, but they're not going to put it 100 meters back in the bush, even though they say they do. They do it 10 meters back in the bush because they're terrified of the wilderness, right? So I said, I'd rather tell the audience to hang the food properly. And if they don't, that's not my problem. It's like run the rapids or portage the rapids. Portage the rapids. Well, they run the rapids. I told you to portage. So, right? Yin and yang. Well, we're on Shirley Lake, really well-known site. Probably if there's a bear issue, there would be a bear issue. I go to hang the food. I couldn't hang the food if I tried. Like, I couldn't lift that barrel. Like, I actually had so much stuff in there. So I go and stuff in the bush, and the guy goes, oh, I wonder what Cliff would say, Kevin. So my answer to them was, look, I'm just being logical about this right now. Like right now I can hang the food, but if I take it way back in the bush off a trail somewhere, like I would do in the far north, then I'm fine. But I'm not going to tell an audience that. And, you know, it's kind of funny. I'm now telling an audience that. But sorry.
Got a quick little tip here. Tripping and trekking, use freeze-dried food bags made of Mylar would be a good option because they're decent at being smell-proof. I've been known to save my Mylar, like, you know, from my backcountry, what's it called? Backcountry. Nate, help me. Your freeze-dried meals, right? Those things, they make good storage bags after they've been cleaned out.
After they've been cleaned out, yeah. I don't know if you can ever really clean, especially if you, for freeze-dried meals, if you're pouring water directly into that bag and then waiting for, 20, 25 minutes, 15 minutes or whatever it takes to actually make that, that smell of whatever's in that bag, that's going to stay in there for a long, long time. I don't know. Freezer bags, again, a bear barrel isn't necessarily completely smell-proof, right? Because you always leave residue from your hands that have been touching food on the handle, the lid, things like that. It's I think a matter of people knowing to at least make a best effort to, toothpaste, everything like that, and that should go in your barrel or your smell-proof containment system, whatever you're using, and far away from your campsite, because at the end of the day, bears are like humans. They're kind of lazy and they're opportunistic. And so if they can smell your food even through that stuff, and it's far enough away from your campsite, they're probably just interested in getting that stuff, and they're probably not going to bother visiting you at your campsite if it's just you and nothing else that smells. If you haven't stuffed a bunch of granola bars down your sleeping bag, then they're probably going to be far less interested in visiting you at your campsite than they are in your food stash. So
yeah, but what about putting Junior's used diaper in there? Surprise the bear, right?
Yeah, that would surprise anybody. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what we used to do when my daughter was young? My canoe partners, we used to go with. So we had that container we'd have the dirty diapers in, and in the morning when they weren't looking, I'd put it in their pack.
Yeah.
I have a bit of a controversial one that maybe some people in the chat aren't aware of, and then this is something where we try to be very diligent about as an outfitter and as a retailer. Is that backcountry soap is biodegradable and not water soluble. And that's a big one for people, because people kind of sort of assume that if they're buying this soap in the backcountry equipment store, that obviously they should just be able to use it in the lake, which is not true.
No, you're talking about like camp suds and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to use that well away from shore. You need to dispose of it well away from the shore in the dirt. So.
And kind of dispose of it in the same fashion that you would your poop, right? Take a bit of a cat hole.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, the idea is that
you're doing it in such
a way that your gray water isn't able to sort of drain into the water that's close to you.
Right. Yep.
And just remember again, going back to where you're getting your water, people will go again to the shoreline to get their water. Well, if people have gone swimming with suntan lotion on, with soap, or done the dishes, those wave actions come towards shore. You don't get your water where it's easy to get your water.
Yeah, so, that's something I know you mentioned it earlier too, but that's something I never really thought of, with the exception of the common spot where you go and you look and the people before you, wash their rice bowl out there and there's all this rice sitting on the bottom because the fish will eat it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the fish are pooping while they're eating the rice.
Yeah.
And the other thing too that people don't get is on portage etiquette. Never, ever, ever eat blueberries at the put in and take out because they have human urine on them.
Yeah. Actually, never eat any of that stuff around the campsite either. Yeah.
Does that go along with never leave your picnic basket at the take in or put out either?
Okay, poop. No, what's the bear's name? Poop. No,
Boo.
Yogi.
Yeah.
Yogi, and Boo Boo. Talking about Yogi and Boo Boo, let's get into pets. A lot of us canoeists are out there camping with our dogs. What's the number one rule for pets out there as far as leashing?
Well, I have a dog. I'm not. First of all, it's the owner's fault, not the pet's fault. So I've had dogs eat my entire granola stash out of my pack on a portage, and I didn't yell at the dog. I yelled at the owner. So I went, "What is your problem?" Leashing the dog, that's a really debatable, touchable one, and we dealt with that on Shirley Lake last week. My dog, and you guys will laugh because I think a lot of people think the way I think. My dog is the perfect dog. It will call and whistle. It will come to me like it's a border collie, like boom, 100%, right? It's black, so what I'll do is I'll put a bandana on it and I'll put a PDF on it, so it's black, so nobody thinks it's a bear. I do all those things. We get to the portage, and I had to carry the canoe because Speedo Man doesn't know how to carry a canoe, even though I've gone with him for years. And so I said, "Look, I can't take the dog on the leash with me with the canoe." And he goes, "Just let her go. She's fine." I went, "No, we're in Algonquin Park." "Well, we haven't seen anybody all day." I went, "Well, we might see someone." And of course he goes, "Oh, you're always with the rules." And I get some criticism on that. This whole Kevin the whole holier than thou, whatever. But at the same time, I got to make sure I do everything right because I think you should do everything right. So I said, "Look, tie the dog onto your waist, and she's a border collie. Just tell her what to do." And he goes, "Well, you don't always have her on the leash." I go, "Well, I'm on Crown land or I'm in the bush. She's a better dog off the leash, to be quite honest, than on a leash. But if we ever met anybody else, I have to think of them. If I was on a portage in Algonquin Park and I saw a black object running towards me, first of all, is it a bear? Oh, no, it's a dog. Is the dog safe? Will it bite me?" And the typical response would be, "Oh, my dog's fine." How do people know that? They don't know that. And so that's the complication. So yes, my dog is always on the leash in a very active park. If I'm in the middle of Wabakimi or Woodland Caribou, no. There's a dog barking in the background. Isn't that kind of ironic? Is it?
The neighbor's
is it
dog.
No.
Do you guys have a dog?
Not here.
Oh,
It's Nate.
Nate's
Nate,
point
I
that
thought
can't be
Nate-
with the Coles. Stop barking, you guys.
Oh my Lord. Keep your dog at ease. You're bad dog owners. But also the dog pooping was, the dog's going to poop. So make sure that poop is back in the bush where your poop is.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's dog poop doesn't mean it should be right beside the campsite. So, yeah. Just keep your dog under control. I think one of the worst things I've seen dogs do, it all depends on the breed. They'll jump out of the canoe to swim after a deer or a moose. And people will find that funny. It's not funny. It's actually illegal. Now, actually, if you look at your hunting license, it's illegal to pursue an animal without a license. not kill the animal, to pursue the animal. So if your dog goes chasing a deer or a moose in a park, that's illegal. Like you can't do that. Actually, Camping the Coast will tell you all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm looking at you, sir, because I know you were a retired OPP officer, but I know you still remember the rules. That is illegal, right?
Well, I was an OPP, but I was Waterloo Regional Police.
Okay.
But yeah, and a lot of the etiquette things too are actual laws. So, they talk about the unwritten etiquette. Well, a lot of those unwritten ones are actually written, and they are actually laws. But yeah, you're talking about one there that's a law that people aren't aware of. But yeah, most of the rules are actually enforceable, and the wardens can enforce them, and they have the full power of police on park property.
Yeah,
I
know
explain that because a lot of people don't know that.
What's that?
So a lot of people don't know that the park wardens have the same ability that a police officer has, but in the park, right?
Yeah. While they're in the park, they have the same authority as the police. They can make arrests. They do investigations. They can issue tickets. They can seize property, like for evidence. Obviously, they can kick people out if they're breaching the rules. They have the same authority as the police. But like Nate was saying, I don't think they have quite the same training as police. And from what I've seen from a lot of them seem to be on the younger side, maybe ones that hope to become police someday or something. But there are some that are career ones. But I have seen quite a few younger ones that look like that they probably are taking a step towards becoming a police officer. So they're not the most experienced in dealing with things, and especially dealing with drunken people and people that want to fight.
Have you ever had an experience that, sorry, I'm going off a tangent here, but this is going to be good. So have you ever had a time, I mean, you've gone to a lot of campgrounds in your time, you have a great channel for it, right? Have you ever had that experience where because you were tired, but they don't know that what you did for a career, you're like, I think you're wrong.
No, not really. Yeah, I've never really dealt with the wardens too much. Like we did have an incident up in Canis Bay in Algonquin, where a guy a couple sites over, he just went crazy that night. I don't know if it was a mental health issue or what it was.
He was destroying everything, screaming 11 o'clock at night, and there's no park wardens around. You try and call 911. There is no 911.
Well, first of all, there's no cell phone usage there. We went to a payphone at the front gate there and tried to do 911. 911 doesn't work in Algonquin, I guess. And so I had to call the operator and ask for the OPP. And the operator wasn't really sure what the OPP was. And then they asked me where. I said, I need the police. And then they said, where are you? And I said, Algonquin Park. And then the operator asked me, how do you spell that? And I'm thinking, this is Algonquin Park. Where are you from? And eventually she said, well, I'll get you the number to the police. And like 5 minutes later, she comes back on and says, sir, you need to speak to the Ontario Provincial Police. And I said, yes, the OPP. That's what I said.
It was a horrible experience.
But anyway, it was 45 minutes later, we had a couple wardens show up. I guess they're private up there.
And they cover different parks. So they were 10 miles down the road at the other park when this incident happened.
It seems like some of the campgrounds along Highway 60 in Algonquin are covered by Ontario Parks, and some, I think, might be private or contracted out. But anyway, these wardens came and they tried to go and talk to the guy, and I was very concerned for them because he was a big guy.
Well, whatever happened in the days, in my youth, whatever happened in the days where a park warden would walk, or two of them would walk through the night with a flashlight throughout the night, and they do patrols. Like, does that not happen now, or
no?
Well, I remember many times in the
way
past,
back,
they would do that, and we've been told to be quiet at night. It was past 11 o'clock. There's a few of us by a fire, and we're not even that loud, but we've been told to be quiet. But now I don't see that at all.
No.
So let me get
during the daytime, I'll see a guy come by in a car and he'll give a wave to everybody, but I don't see them walking anymore.
Okay, let me get this straight. It's more expensive to go camping, There's more people. In fact, it's up 70% in the last 2 years to go camping. It's hard to get a campsite if finally you get one. And yet nobody walks around to tell the yahoos to be quiet.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody walk around in a long time. It's always just somebody in a car, and usually not at night.
Yeah, the park pickup truck comes cruising by.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Yeah, just making sure no loud music, and as soon as they're gone, as Kevin would call them, the wahoos start.
That's right.
The loud music again, right?
Oh, we're all wahoos. I mean, I was a wahoo probably too. Well, it wasn't a terrible wahoo, but I mean, good Lord, I probably got a ticket for singing John Denver too loud. For heaven's sake.
Yeah. How loud is too loud though, or not loud enough, right? Sometimes like you say, and you alluded to it earlier, like when you're in the backcountry, if you're on a lake somewhere, sound just carries right across the lake. You know, if you're in a campsite, like camping with the Coles here, you could be at your campsite and you could hear somebody 15 sites over because they're hooting and hollering, laughing loud. They're having a good time. I understand that, right? But they're just not aware to how the sound is actually carrying, unless maybe they hear it themselves later, right? So
yeah, we're all different people too, because we're again going into Shirley Lake. We met a bunch of guys on the portage, right? And what they're carrying, and a lot of legal beer too, coolers of beer, whatever. I'm thinking, oh my God. And we weren't against them, but we got together as a group because we're older and what we wanted out of the trip was totally different. So we all gathered together and said, hey guys, our number one rule right now when we get onto this lake is to make sure we do not camp near them. Are we 100% clear on that? And what that meant was experience. We knew that, yes, they might be nice people. They might be the first time in the woods. Let it be. But I'm not camping beside them because that's going to ruin my experience. And I think the more and more people are getting out there, the less that's going to happen. It's going to be more difficult to get away from them, right?
Yeah, I'm going to get out of here and make room for hopefully someone else. Pine Martin, I just saw him back in the chat there after a hiatus. Maybe he can jump up. But I will say, just from an outfitter's perspective, it has to be from education. It has to be a better way to educate people that are front country camping, and especially those that are backcountry camping for maybe the first time. I don't know what that is, Kevin. Maybe after 50 years, Kevin will know what that is. But we all have a little bit of a part to play, and as long as we keep playing that little bit of a part, hopefully somewhere down the line it'll make a difference for that new camper. That's as much as we can hope for. But of course, that education also needs to be backed up by enforcement, and that's something we need to work to hold our government accountable for. So,
Nate, emphasize your whole point. And if everybody's listening out there, you need, after this whole thing, watch Crickets Make Me Nervous on YouTube.
I was just thinking about that.
and Camp of the Cold, you have to have seen this. I hope to God you've seen this. But Nate, you have to have seen this. If not, everybody should watch this. In the 70s, Ontario Parks did an educational program for front country and backcountry etiquette. And you have to watch it. There's no way they would ever produce something like that now, but they did it. And why they did it is that the people that were all doing negative wanted to watch it, not us. And I think that's really important because we can talk all night about this and we all agree everything's all going to hell, but the people that are doing it aren't listening to the show right now.
That's right.
And so in the 1972, I think it came out. Crickets Make Me Nervous. It was filmed.
I'm digging up the link right now. It's a 2-part video. I'll put it in the chat, but don't leave and watch it now. Watch it after the show.
Oh my Lord! The first part is front country. The second part is backcountry. And I wish they did something like that now. I really do.
We should teach it in the schools.
When you watch the video, it is hokey as heck. Yeah.
I will definitely check that out, but I have pasta to eat, so I'm gonna let you guys go for now. But I'll be watching, and hopefully someone else like Pine Martin can hop up here, because that's who I learned a lot of my etiquette from. So
Pine Martin does know anything. Oh my!
Yeah,
hey, thanks for popping in, man.
I'm thinking we should probably drop out too, just because this is a backcountry etiquette, and we kind of nosed our way in here for front country.
If you read the description of the video, I actually touched on front country as well. And I was hoping that
hey, there you go.
So you're welcome to stick around if you like, unless you want to duck out and have a beer or whatever. But yeah, you're welcome.
How's your tour going? How's your tour?
We did 2 parks that we did videos on. This past weekend, we were at Inverhuron, and we didn't do a video on that because we did one a couple years ago, and we actually had 7 families at this one. So this past 5 days was all play, no work. We had 7 families. It was a real good time at Inverhuron.
So let everybody know about this tour. You're doing like 19 parks?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're doing a total of 20 parks, but yeah, we're doing videos on 19 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll be doing the Lake Superior run in July. That's the biggest one.
Yeah, that's going to be 7 parks going up lakes to Sleeping Giant and back. We're from the Kitchener area, so we're heading up there. And then in August we're doing
the
eastern area, like around Ottawa. Got 4 parks going on there.
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot. But Kevin, you mentioned to us in the past that maybe we should do something about etiquette, and we took that to heart and thought, yeah, we're going to do something about that.
Started working on it, so.
And yeah, we started recording it. And the good thing is, with our channel, a lot of newbies watch our channel. We see that in the comments all the time. They're new to camping. They don't know about provincial parks or anything, so they're looking it up on YouTube and they're finding our videos. So they're asking a lot of questions. And that's good. And so we know a lot of new people watch our channel, and a lot of it is a lack of knowledge. They just don't know. There's the people that are just jerks, but there's a lot of people that just don't know about a lot of the etiquette, such as
washing your dishes under the tap, showering on your site, cutting down trees,
like gathering woods. When you're in backcountry, you go and you gather some dead branches and stuff like that to start a fire. In front country, that's a huge no. You can't do that. You use the camp wood, which I'm sure they pre-soak in the water before they sell it to you.
Yes,
but,
last longer that way.
Or you buy the wood from outside of the park from a person there. That's a good thing, just outside the park. But yeah, there's a lot of things that people do, and I think a lot of it is they just don't know. And we see it from a lot of new people. So I'm not sure when we're going to get the video out. We just did some footage for it, but we want to get that out there and hopefully get new people to understand about the rules.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And you need to watch your channel. Everybody needs to watch your channel because the amount of gas that you're guzzling.
Oh, man.
Don't remind us.
Yeah. We decided to do all these
That
trips
year.
before the gas prices went up, and now we're going up to Sleeping Giant and back, and we're looking at $2.04 a liter or something right now. Oh my gosh, it's cost me $200 just to go to Inverhuron and back with my truck and trailer.
Right. Wow. So you mentioned there, Ben, about cutting wood and stuff like that. Let's talk a bit about wood harvesting. Whether in your case, wood harvesting would be going to the shack, the fenced-in shack, and paying $7.50 or $8 for a bag of wood, right?
Yeah.
In the backcountry, we don't have that privilege because we can get our wood for free. But what wood should we be cutting down, Kevin?
Well, it's great in the springtime. I mean, the lake campsite we went to, we rejoiced because all the old wood had fallen down, and we didn't have to go far. But after the end of the summer, you're going to have to go away from your campsite and go along the shoreline and find wood other than where your campsite is, because then people will get desperate. What happens? I can see it. You're around the campfire, you run out of wood. Some guys have had a few too many drinks. Oh, we're out of wood. Oh, yeah. And then they have a hatchet. Hatchets are worse, right? And they start chopping down a green tree, try to burn it. It doesn't happen. They wake up, they're hungover. Then they go back to their car. They go home to their city, right? And then I get to that campsite. What the hell happened?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's exactly what happened, right? They again, self-interest, right? So the moment we get to campsite, you plan and organize. One person gets the tents up. One person gets the tarp up. One person gets the rope up to hang the food barrel. 2 other people go up in the backwoods and gather firewood. And that's usually my job, because I know species, because my background. So I'll go and gather a whole bunch of wood way back in the woods, bring it back, chop it all up. And, well before we're having our dinner, we've got lots of wood, right? But that's not always what happens.
Yeah, there's one problem though. Like when you hit a popular park like Algonquin or Killarney, some of the campsites are so ravaged for wood. You got to go back quite literally a couple hundred yards to try and find something, right?
Yeah.
Or you got to jump in your canoe and paddle across to where there's no campsite, and then maybe forage for some wood around there, right? Not quite as bad when you're in the on Crown land because it's not as well traveled for the most part.
No, it all depends too. And I remember the Kawartha Highlands. When the one mistake they did, I talked to them about, was when they created the park, they put in the fire bins, but there were like these high metal structures. And I went to the superintendent, really nice guy, and I said, "Hey, well, that's a huge mistake because they're high structures. So therefore, people are going to need a bigger fire to actually cook something on the grill. And you don't have any firewood. I mean, people go here every single night like a hotel, and you're going to run out of firewood." And so they put layers up of rock to make sure it was higher. That helped. But at the same time, you're going to have to actually go out and search around the lake to get more firewood. It just becomes an issue to the point that even the Kawartha Highlands, it's not that much of a wilderness park. I would tell people, bring your own firewood in, because when you get to camp, you're not going to have a lot of firewood.
Yeah, for sure. Donald, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you, Dennis?
Good. Living the dream here.
Good to see all you guys. Good to see you, Kevin, and nice to see Ken.
The mustache is doing well, Donald.
It's slightly gray. My wife's laughing.
Oh my Lord! No, you're a sexy beast. Look at that.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate
Kevin's
that.
jealous.
Yeah, it goes with the gray hair too. So, yeah.
There you go.
My son's hair is just almost as gray, and he's going to be 27. So, it runs in the family. Well, we always. I told him when he was younger and his hair was starting to turn gray, just tell people you're carrying your elders with you. And,
there you go.
That works out good. But this entire show, I've been listening to everything, and a lot of people hitting on just exact points. Self-entitlement's the biggest one, of course. What Kevin was just talking about with gathering firewood. You know how to do it proper. A lot of us know how to do it proper. And one of the biggest things, what Kevin mentioned, is the people that do not have etiquette anywhere are not watching. They're watching something dumb on YouTube. But what I was thinking about was kind of like what we can do is kind of like something else Kevin had said. You met those young men on the portage, and you kind of just explain them, hey, you put your canoes off to the side, make room for other people. And then later on, you see that someone actually learned, and they know that, and they can pass that on. So it's what it really comes down to with all of us who know how to treat the backcountry or the front country or our neighbors is by example. We come to a dirty campsite, clean it up, do what you can, and teach others. But we're the minority. We're never going to change everyone. Just like anyone familiar with the Boundary Waters, you get a permit there and you watch a happy little video and it's really cute and you fill out, answer questions, and then they're never stern about don't let your kids peel bark off trees. Don't let them run around with an axe, please. And so that area, like Algonquin, is taking a huge hit from people that not necessarily are inexperienced, but don't care. It's their Disney vacation, so get out of their way. And that's too bad. So the only thing we can really do as a camping community is teach by example. And if we can't, like if we're on a backcountry area and there is just this huge party going on that we can't control, we're outnumbered, we don't want to be violent, we just got to move on. That's all that we can do. And like with the campsites, my son and I just came back from a short trip in Temagami, and no place backcountry. We stayed on the main lake in Coca-Cola Lake just to see a couple things I wanted to see. And the main campsites, it was obvious, not to put the finger on people, it's obvious that it was, partiers and maybe a little too much alcohol with like the die-hard fishermen and stuff like that create the type of campsites we found with all the stuff built and all the junk. And that's just something we have to deal with. So we clean up stuff, and then maybe the next group that comes finds a nicer campsite. You know, that's kind of all I think we really can do is educate by example, do the best we can. And if we can't, move on, and hopefully we can help somebody else out.
Yeah, pretty well said. Yeah, like you say, you're not going to appease the masses. We're not going to be able to change everybody's mind. But I think, you know, with all the books that Kevin Callan has sold, maybe he should be writing a book on backcountry etiquette.
No, you wouldn't sell.
Almost everybody that's bought a Kevin Callan book would buy your book just because you wrote the book.
Right.
True story. That book, How to Shit in the Woods. Nobody knows the story. It was first titled that. And then the publishing company changed the title at the last moment. And I wish I bought that book. And I forget what it was called. I think it was called Camping Etiquette. And it did not sell at all. And then they changed the book, the title again to Shit in the Woods. And it was a bestseller 3-4 times over.
Yeah.
That's a true story in the publishing world. It was really interesting. And that was years ago when that happened. So,
right.
I own the Audible version of it. So that's,
Yeah, I remember seeing that book when it came out, and once it was How to Shit in the Woods, it was popular because it was more aggressive, just like society has become more aggressive. That's probably why. Yeah, no one wants to watch Winnie the Pooh or something like that. You know, they want to watch 3 guys with swords stabbing each other. So that's just how society is. You know, so it's that's how it works.
That's why I do Gary the puppet videos.
Exactly.
I love Gary the puppet videos.
It's so funny. The government won't touch that with it. They won't. So I don't know how many times I put Gary the puppet video proposal into the government saying, "Hey, we should use Gary to promote people," and they won't even go to a meeting on that. Yeah, that's funny.
Well, Donald, thanks, man. I appreciate your input on that. You know what? It's nice to hear other people's take on it, because we could sit here and talk about it, but it's nice to hear the perspective of other people, you know, especially those that have been affected by it, and to see how it affects people. When you go in and you find the trash campsite, or, you know, Kevin running into people that like don't leave room on a portage, because it does affect people, right? And I think a lot of the common sense comes back to saying, you know what? Do unto others as you expect done unto you, type of thing, right? So, like, you know, it goes hand in hand. You do what you're supposed to do, and maybe other people start doing that, lead by example, type of thing, right, Kevin?
It's true, like Donald, like you have so much wisdom, even though it makes sense because of the mustache. You should have wisdom, but I know you, and you have a lot of bush savvy. And I'll give you a scenario that I really wanted to talk about tonight. And I'll do it in a really quick version because I talked too much. Sorry tonight, but there was a thing where when I did something wrong, and I really learned from that. So a few years back, we're in Algonquin Park, and in Algonquin Park, the rule is you camp on a specific lake that you're registered on. But they're starting to change that now in some areas. So on the Nipissing River, in the central Nipissing River, they changed that. So when you booked a site, you had to be on that site, right? But the Nipissing River is a remote part of the park. Anyway, we did that. That's fine. We did this trip, and we're on this one site on the Nipissing. And we're going past the site just before that site, and we meet these 2 guys, and one guy was hypothermic. They had an accident. So we went and did not a rescue, but we said, "Hey, can we help you out?" So we get to shore at this campsite, not the one we're supposed to be at. It was about 6, maybe 5:30 at night. We make a fire. The other guy goes, "Well, I need to get the gear that we dumped up in the rapids. Can you take care of my buddy?" So no problem. You do that. We'll take care of him. We gave him some soup. And by that time, it was like 7:30. So we just set up our tents, right? And then I said, "Guys, okay, we're fine. If you want to go downstream and use our site, because we're already set up in this site, good luck to you. Hope you have a good trip." And they're all warm and cozy. 10 minutes later, and it was just dusk, a canoe comes down the river, and we're like, "Uh-oh." So I go, "Sorry." And I went to explain to them what happened. First out of their mouth was, get off our effing site.
Oh.
Right? And I went, you're completely right. They were right. Donald, they were completely right. We were on their site. But I went to explain to them why we're on the site. I don't care. Get off our effing site. I go, well, can we share? Can we just go back in the backwoods? We won't disturb you. No, get off our effing site. And I went, whoa. So I went to my buddies. I said, they're right. We're completely in the wrong. So we have to pack up. It's getting dark. We have to go downriver and camp in the bush, like bushwhack it, which is illegal in Algonquin, but that's where And because I'm Irish and Scottish, we were about to leave, and I couldn't hold back. And I went up to him, and I just tore a grip off the guy. And I said, you're completely right what you did, but do you understand what canoe etiquette is in the wilderness? You don't even know why we're here. We just saved 2 guys from hypothermia. And he goes, I don't care. Get off our effing site. Self-interest, right?
Yep.
So again, completely in the wrong. We were completely in the wrong. We camped in the bush that night, and we had a blast. I mean, we giggled all night about it, right? And to this day, we remember. And we got to the portage, and a bunch of other campers had heard about it because it's a small world out there. And they're like, you're going to camp with us? Oh, no. I heard about it happening. You're going to camp with us. And that's the thing we can't teach people.
Right.
You know, it's all to do with bush time. It's like, yes, I know we're in the wrong, but you understand why we're in the wrong, right?
Oh, exactly.
Here's Pine Martin.
Wait a minute. No, Pine Martin has arrived.
All right.
Actually, you know what, Kevin? I'm based on what you're saying there. Like that there's something I actually had in my notes here. Was talking about safety etiquette in the backcountry, because you get into situations where, like what you had, there was a reason. You had a justifiable reason. Case in point, last year, my big canoe trip there, when we met Glenn and Carol, right? We were in a dire situation where, one, we were all freezing cold. We were totally soaking wet from the storm. Hypothermia was setting in on one of the youngest members of our party, and no other campsites in the area. And they did the ultimate Canadian thing, the perfect etiquette thing, is they invited us to stay on their small 2-tent pad campsite. Totally put them out, but they did the right thing by like that's the etiquette that you expect in the backcountry, is the understanding and the nurturing to get somebody out of a jam, right?
Yeah, and you'll pass it on too. That's it. You'll pass that on.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, and in a quick Algonquin story, like you're bringing up, Kevin, I did a trip to Algonquin a number of years ago, and I threw my back out. It used to go out bad. And as Kevin, as you know, when my back would go out, it was hard to breathe, much less move. So I'm on a campsite, a Misty Lake or something like that, and I couldn't hardly move. So I didn't leave the site when I was supposed to and leave the lake. And I heard some people come in, and it was late, and I heard them say, there's no campsites available. And I yelled to them, come here, camp here. And they came by, and I said, look, I should have left like 2 days ago. I've been sitting on this rock. I don't sleep. I can't do anything. I got to wait till my back gets back in line before I can move. And so I just gave the campsite, and that's just an etiquette thing. And because bless you, I would have hated to have been in a situation, not finding a campsite late in the evening, but that's just what you do. But like you said, Kevin, the guys flip out at you and stuff. Yes, technically you were in the wrong, but when it comes to etiquette, like you were talking about, Dennis, with other people, there's just people out there that are just not going to be nice, So like you said, like what happened with you, Dennis, some guys really treated you guys well. You'll pass that on. I passed on just being nice and, hey, there's a site over here, I'll share or whatever. So again, that's the best we can do, and then we all sleep good at night.
Yep. Life could depend on it, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. What have you got to add, Martin? I see the wheels turning.
Well, I've really enjoyed this, actually. Like the stories, and of course, I agree with the common thread throughout this is that it's education is what's called for. It's not enforcement. There's no way we can enforce this. It's hard enough to enforce, compliance with, on our highways with, getting people to observe speed limits and stuff like that. How are we going to enforce compliance in the backcountry where there's scarcely anyone ever to witness anyone engage in some wrongful act, much less a breach of etiquette. Etiquette is all about courtesy. It's all about consideration for other people. That's what etiquette is. When you think about etiquette, like think about dinner etiquette, coughing into your napkin or something like that, or could you pass the salt as opposed to reaching it across the table and grabbing the salt out in front of somebody else and getting your elbow in the gravy boat or something like that. Etiquette is all about consideration for other people. It's about consideration for their feelings. It's about not inconveniencing other people. So that is the heart of etiquette, is putting other people first. And among the other people, of course, is the critters that live there. And so that's where the conservation aspect of it comes in. Most of us, when we go out there, are tourists. We're going there to visit, and we're going to live out there temporarily, but we're visitors, and we have to bear that in mind, and we have to act accordingly. And so that's another aspect of etiquette. There's so many things that have been mentioned that I would have loved to have commented on at the time. But one thing that I think people forget is, and you sort of touched on this, Dennis, and it was a small point of disagreement, but it's really a minor quibble. But you said something about, you want to leave things the way people would like to find them. But that presumes, and I agree with that, but it presumes that people would like to find things in a state of nature, a state of wildness, of wilderness, of being untouched. And that's how I like things. I don't like going to a site and seeing stumps that have been cut and made into log chairs. I don't like log benches. I don't like a big, bonfire fire pit. I don't like tables at, belly height that are perfect for, cooking on and, cleaning your fish and stuff like that. It's all very convenient. I'm not going to lie and say I don't find those convenient. But I don't like arriving at a site and seeing it built up and developed. And if there's one thing that drives me crazy, it doesn't matter if it's in a park. It doesn't matter if it's an unmanaged park like Naganosh or something like that, or if it's just general use Crown land where there's no regulation whatsoever. I hate seeing a developed site. I don't mind seeing a fire ring. That's fine. I don't mind seeing a place where people have bedded down and made that their tent pad, and the vegetation is sort of tamped down and stuff like that through repeated use, and it's become an established campsite. I actually like seeing that. I like seeing the sign of other human occupancy, but I don't like it when people have tried to improve a site by trying to make it homey. That I can't stand, and I wish people would get out of that habit of thinking that I'm going to build a table, and I like having a table when I'm in the bush, so other people will like it, so they won't mind that I brought in some dimensional lumber and nails and screws, and I hammered into the trees, and I built up this nice table. Yes, it will be convenient for everyone who visits, but for someone like me who goes to the wilderness to experience life in the wilderness as our ancestors would have experienced it, that is a bloody eyesore, and I find it inconvenient, and I find it a breach of etiquette, and I wish people wouldn't do that. And I don't do this in parks, but I certainly do it on Crown land. If I see people have left behind their bush crap, if I see people have built up and developed a site, I tear it down. I take it down. If I see you built a beautiful lean-to on Crown land and you left it up, and it's not where I would camp, and it's in my way, and it's blocking my view, and I think it's going to sag and collapse and hurt somebody someday, down it comes. If you built a table out there and it doesn't matter how well crafted it is, if you've left your paracord behind and all that, I take it down. I try to restore things back to their state, and it's not because I'm some tree hugging hippie type. It's because when I go camping, I want to experience the wilderness as it was before you arrived. You're not going to improve it for me. And I don't try to improve sites for other people either. I don't think that camping means that you should never leave a trace. I think a fire ring established in a responsible place, like on bedrock or something like that, I don't think that's a bad thing. That's a good thing. That signals to less experienced campers where they should make their fire. that it's a safe place, right? And so I think it behooves those of us who are experienced campers to establish sites in the wilderness and establish them responsibly and hope that other people heed them. But when you try to make things homey, it's not a good idea. And that I think is a breach of etiquette that I think goes unappreciated and that I think in fact gets rewarded. And one of the liabilities of the sort of bushcraft movement on YouTube is I think it celebrates the building up and developing of sites in the backcountry. It's okay if you're doing it on private property. Like you've built up a really beautiful bush camp, Dennis, but you've done it on private property with the express permission of the landowner. It's completely different, right? I did something like that on my own property. So, I mean, I think that's perfectly fine and acceptable. But if you're out on Crown land, you shouldn't do it. And if you're in a park, you shouldn't do it. Let the park officials decide the degree of development and buildup of a site. But don't take it upon yourself to improve a site. That would be my advice.
Absolutely right. 100%.
Well, that makes total sense. And like you mentioned, or how you started out there, Martin, by saying that, assuming that everybody's going to have the same like or want for a site as you. I don't know how many times I've gone back to a favorite campsite and the fire ring has been moved or like moved to a totally different area or has been rebuilt because everybody's concept of the right way is a different way. Right. So, yeah. Where should the influence come from? There's a comment here by Richard West says influencers have an important role. Do you agree with that, Kevin?
Oh, I do. It's a tough one too because I know people will hear me rambling on and do media stuff, and they'll say, "Well, isn't Kevin so self-righteous, right? He's all so perfect," and I'm not at all. And you guys know me personally, so you know that I'm not at all, not even close. But at the same time, I do think that if you have a presence on social media, TV, radio, whatever, if you have that presence, you need to be self-conscious and do things right. For a good example, my dog on the portage, my buddy said, "Let the dog go." No, I can't. Why can't you? Well, because I want to do what's proper. It's illegal to have the dog off the leash. Oh, Kevin. And they don't live my life. They're not on social media all the time. And they don't work at a college that has the Conservation Authority program going on. So Kevin the Colts, you retired a police officer. You know exactly what I'm talking about, more so than me, right? And at the same time, I am who I am. I do those things because I want to, not because I'm forced to. I wear my PFD when I'm paddling. I'm very proper etiquette on the portage. I clean my campsite up, not because I have to abide by the rules because I have to because I'm on social media. It's because my dad raised me proper. My dad taught me how to be proper when growing up, right? Have a good work etiquette. Have good camp etiquette. It was something that was taught to me as a child. Not because I was on some YouTuber, right? So,
yeah. You know what? I think when we do close the show tonight, I want Pine Martin to give his definition of etiquette once again, because I think you know what, that's something that we missed at the beginning of the show. Martin was, etiquette is a courtesy to another, right? So, I
gotta say, guys, though, I know so many people in the outdoor world throughout my career, and I grew up doing a lot of idols, and some people I've met and some people I've other met, and sometimes you don't want to meet your idols. Red Green was friggin' amazing. I remember meeting him, and I was like so nervous because I just loved the guy, and he was beside me signing books all day. He was the person. Right. And there's other people, I won't mention names, but I'm thinking, oh my God, you are not the etiquette person I thought. You played that role on TV, but you were not. You're a complete ass. Right. But we're always going to have that in our lives. Sometimes I would say never meet your idols, to be quite honest. But yeah. So going back to the whole idea is that should those people on social media be ethical in the wilderness? Yes, they should, and they should know better. But in media, it's also a lot more self-interest and not more so narcissism than you could ever imagine. That's why they're on. right? And we all do, when we do YouTube and everything else, we all have a little bit of narcissism. We wouldn't do it if we didn't, right? But you can't let that control you and not be the person you really are. Like camping with the Coles, I swear to God, they have the cleanest campsite. Every time you go there, they're perfect in everything they do.
Yeah, right.
You've seen it.
No, but what's funny though is you mentioned about following the rules and everything, and so people comment on our videos. We'll go out kayaking, and we're just in a little lake or something like that. And sometimes we're not wearing our PFDs when we're kayaking. Well, legally, you don't have to wear your PFD. You have to have it with you. So I'm okay with that. But then people call us out for not wearing the PFD. And then when I think about it, because we're still new to this whole thing of people watching us and paying attention to us. And so I'd say, you know what? We should wear our PFD when we're out there, even though legally we don't have to. When we go for bicycle rides, people are commenting, how come you're not wearing your helmet? You need to wear your helmet. Well, legally, we don't have to wear a helmet, but we should be more responsible and setting a better example. And we're starting to wear our helmets now. So it's setting a good example. And like I said, we have a lot of newbies that watch us. So it's setting a good example, and hopefully they follow along.
Well, Donald will help me with this because he's at the age too. With remember when we watched Bill Mason videos, Water Walker, and all those, we could care less who Bill Mason was. We just wanted to be in that red canoe that he was paddling, right? And we learned from that by practice, and we wanted to be him, not him, but we wanted to be that person, right? And that created etiquette because what he was doing, we realized that we should do. So his film taught etiquette more than I think anybody in the past 30 years.
There's a big difference, though, with Bill Mason and a lot of what goes on YouTube now. So I absolutely agree with you, Kevin. People emulated Bill Mason, but Bill Mason's motivations for making his films were really instructional. It wasn't narcissism. It wasn't self-promotion, self-aggrandizement, and celebrity seeking. He wasn't trying to become an influencer for its own sake and to make a buck and to monetize his channel or anything like that. Obviously, he was a filmmaker. He wanted to make a living as a filmmaker, but he certainly chose a kind of subject matter, a genre that wasn't very lucrative. So, I mean, if money was his object, he chose the wrong genre of filmmaking. So, I mean, the reason we could learn so much and take away so much from someone like Bill Mason was precisely that he was not celebrity seeking. And he was genuinely someone knowledgeable about the backcountry and how to conduct yourself out there, and way ahead of his time. I mean, he is of that generation that grew up being told, as a matter of ecological principle, that you should bury your beer bottles and your cans in the backcountry. He's of that generation because that was the wisdom of the day, right? That and deep sixing your trash deep in the lake. I mean, it's hard to believe that used to be the ecological wisdom, right? But it was until people started doing that in parks, and until the greater numbers of people started doing this, and then all of a sudden we were discovering one another's trash out there. But that used to be the way. I have a YouTube video, a small short YouTube video of me on a camping trip, just a quick overnighter on Crown land, and I see this glint of something in the soil, and I go and I look, and it looks like some broken glass, and I go and dig it up, and sure enough, it's a broken beer bottle. And as I dig it up, I discover another beer bottle and another beer bottle, and there was just a whole pile of cans and beer bottles that had been buried there. And then I noticed the terrain was kind of weird. There were all these mounds, and I look, and sure enough, generations of campers had gone there, big parties of people. And this was on Crown land, along a river shore of a river you know very well, Kevin. And that was the ecological wisdom of the day. And somehow Bill Mason, despite being of that generation, saw way, way beyond that and was able to impart an ecological ethic that resonates better with us today than it would have with the people that he grew up with. So Bill Mason is kind of singular that way. There's a kind of purity to his motive that I think is very rarely found nowadays on YouTube or even any TV show.
Yeah. Funny you talk about Bill Mason. I introduced my mom and dad to Bill Mason the other day. We watched Path of the Paddle and Water Walker. My mom's, oh, that guy is so strong. Your paddle and thing. No, it was priceless. I actually took a picture, posted it on Facebook. I had to show that off.
Hey, I want to say one little thing. I have to sort of give a nod to Kevin, and I have mentioned this before a long time ago, but I want to mention it again. When I first began canoe tripping, so I had sort of a long history of backpacking and stuff like that. I've been backpacking all over the place. But when I was new to canoeing, one of the first books that was ever sort of put in my hand on where to go camping was one of Kevin's canoe guides, right, paddling guides. And I think it was called Weekend Wilderness Adventures in Southwestern Ontario. I think it might be retitled now, but Kevin will remember that title. Anyway, at the end of that book, he has some recipes, for canoe trippers and stuff like that, for camp cuisine. And he has a section on backcountry etiquette and cleanliness, on how to do your dishes and how to poop in the woods and the whole thing. And that was that little section was just only a few pages, but it was a crash course. And it catapulted me forward in my appreciation and understanding of how to conduct myself in the backcountry in terms of environmental awareness. Like, he had a line in there. I think the line was something like, "Gone are the days where you could just wash your dishes in the lake at the shore," right? Something like that. Kevin, you might remember if I'm misremembering this or not, but there was some line, something to that effect. And I remember thinking, well, then how the heck do you do your dishes? And of course, then he goes on to describe how you're supposed to do your dishes, and how to bathe in the backcountry and stuff like that. And I would have been going out there and doing it all wrong myself. So Kevin's a sort of a premier example of someone who, by dint of his experience and his books, has imparted to another person his own age. I mean, he looks a lot older than me, but he's only a little bit older than I. But by by dint of his greater experience than my own, educated me very, very quickly in the span of a few pages.
Well, thanks for that. I think that's a huge compliment, actually. But it brought back memories of that book, because that's an old book. And the publishers at the time, because they're retired right now, they're good friends of mine. They went paddling with me, and they asked me to do that Southern Ontario book because I was doing more northern books. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, I'll do that as long as there's some etiquette put at the end. And that was a new thing at the time. At the time, they're like, why would we do that? I went, well, there's a lot of people. And so we're all talking tonight about how people are not doing the proper thing now. This is not new. Because when I did that book, I was pushing the publisher to have that last bit of the ending. It wasn't their idea. And to put that in there, because at that time, people were not doing the proper thing. So, yeah, good. I'm glad you mentioned that. And I'm glad we brought that up. So,
yeah, it was valuable to me. It was very valuable to me. And I think practically every book should have a section like that. Every guide, every book of that sort in this genre ought to have at least a short section like that. The section you included was like a masterpiece of brevity. It was really, really short. But I didn't just come away with practical advice on how to do things, but it gave me a sense of, oh, right, this is why we do it. This is why we shouldn't do it the way I would have done it if I hadn't known better. It really stayed with me. It always has. So thank you for that.
Well, that's great. But all of us, aren't there times too where we're all right with the Bill Mason and my book, and then Donald, his wisdom and stuff like that, and Camping with the Coles, their whole wisdom. But then you're like, I just want someone with a big gun telling them not to do it.
I kind of would like that too. I kind of like that too.
I'm kind of half joking, but there's moments in the woods too where we all are, this hippie like we all shouldn't we all get along, and if we just educate. But there's moments where you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I got to throw a quick little shout out to Camper Christina, because she last year she put out a online camping course called Backcountry Camping for Beginners. And you know what? She does cover a lot of backcountry etiquette and proper way of doing things in the bush through her experiences of what she's done over the past bunch of years. So for anybody that might be looking for anything like that, by all means, check out the course. You don't even have to be a beginner. I took the course myself, and I picked up tips that I wouldn't have even thought of. So, it's something that's good. You can never stop learning, right? It's something that's a good thing.
Yeah. And Pi Martin, you're doing a course with Kim, right?
Yeah. So Kim Switzer and I have teamed up, and we're partnering with an organization called Yours Outdoors. They offer outdoor experiences, camping experiences, and plant ID experiences, and rock hounding experiences, and stuff like that in the Halliburton area. And Kim and I have developed a series of about 9 different workshops. They're all instructional. They're all about backcountry basic camping skills, everything from firecraft to tarpology, that is setting up tarps, to when we have one called Crown Land Caretakers, actually, that's going to offer people some instruction on how to locate Crown Land, how to camp on Crown Land, and all of the do's and don'ts, and a heavy ecological emphasis on leave no trace. So this subject was sort of very near and dear to my heart, and it's very near and dear to the heart of Kim. She sort of lives and breathes this stuff. She's a certified leave no trace instructor. Yeah, we're going to be offering some courses on that. We really want to do our part to sort of impart this kind of ethic and backcountry etiquette.
So let me get this straight. Dennis is going to finish a show next week with a finale, whatever it's called, and then he's going to go off into the wilderness and become his own Bill Mason. Camping the Coals, you are actually on the midst of a tour of 20,000 parks, and gas is no question. You have lots of money. Pi Martin, you're creating all these workshops. Donald, you're just going off the boundary waters and being free-spirited. All I'm doing is getting out there and getting angry with people.
Something like that.
Martin, where can people get hooked up with these courses that you and Kim are offering again?
Just go to www.yoursoutdoors.ca, and there you'll find their webpage. They list all the kinds of experiences that there are, and you'll see there's a little write-up about Kim and I and our interest in our backgrounds and stuff like that, and you'll see the various things that we're offering. There's a calendar of when these things are being offered. But I mean, if you can't make it on a certain day of the week or a certain weekend or something like that, you can always contact Yours Outdoors and ask them if we can accommodate some other date. We'd be happy to do it if we can. So
cool.
yoursoutdoors.ca.
Okay. And Wilderness Canoe Association was asking who certifies or who does certifying for the
if I'm not mistaken, this was a course that Kim took. Geez, I wish she was here right now. I might have been offered through Fleming College, actually, but I'm not sure. So Kim, if you're in the chat, if you could just type out who issued this certification, because I can't recall off the top of my head.
The organization is called Leave No Trace. It's
it is called Leave No Trace.
Organization. Yeah, they've been around for a long time.
Cool. Very cool. Well, you know what, guys and gals, we are well past and we are well into overtime. Just going to go around the table here once and just ask each of you for a positive reinforcement on etiquette in the backcountry. Something, a piece of advice that you could pass on to people. We'll start with Mark.
Well, I mean, let me underscore the point that I made earlier. You're not going to improve on nature. So don't try when you're out there. Try to leave things as they were, as in the most natural state possible. And remember that etiquette is about consideration for others, including the wildlife that's out there, right down to the bacteria and the plant life. So just try to put those other things and people first. That's what etiquette, the heart of etiquette is.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, what about the chipmunks, right?
Don't explain the whole chipmunk story. That's a good story, though. I mean, if I went into I teach part-time students at risk. I take them in the woods. If I judged them and got angry with them every single day, well, I wouldn't. I wouldn't have a job, right? And they would have a life. So be patient. A lot of those people just don't know what they're doing. We have to educate. At the end of the day, yeah, enforcement has to be involved, but let them be involved. But also at the end of the day, karma. I got to say, if there are very small percentage of evil people doing evil things out there, nature will kick their butt. I know that. So feel good about that. Mm-hmm. That will happen.
Cool. Donald?
I think just setting a good example, being a role model, even if you don't think anyone's looking, cleaning things up, sharing helpful knowledge with other people. Like Kevin, you mentioned about the dog being on a leash. I'm not a dog person. So if I see a dog on a porta show running after me, I'm ready to kick that thing. And people will yell, "Oh, he's friendly." Well, sorry, I'm not. Yeah, because you don't know the dog.
Yeah.
I fear people's dogs more than I fear any animals in the backcountry. So, just etiquette and being courteous with others and setting a good example is about the best that you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Ben, Cheryl?
Just pass on the knowledge. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be considerate, especially in front country. Be considerate of the area around you. There's a lot of people around you in front country. Be considerate of them as well as the animals in the land. So just be considerate. And there are a lot of good front country campers out there. There's a lot of good stuff. And, in this, we're talking about the bad stuff that you see, but there is a lot of really good stuff still.
Mm-hmm.
So hope more people do that.
Yeah. I would say something like, the old pack it in, pack it out type of adage. Maybe if you're newer, or even if you're a well-experienced or well-rounded camper, consider your packing practices when it comes to food, the way you're carrying your gear, the type of waste. Pre-think the waste that you may have before you go on a trip, so that perhaps you can find a better way to alter that trash, right? I always put a lot of focus on the trash, but you know what? It takes one bad apple, right, to spoil the whole basket type of deal. And that's what we deal with in a lot of cases when it comes to backcountry camping or front country camping, for that matter. All it takes is one bad apple to ruin the whole experience for many. You know what? If you could try to avoid that, that's great, but you're not always going to avoid it. And not everybody's like us wanting to carry garbage out. So a lot of times even it gets bypassed many, many times. So just do our part. Do your part, and maybe we'll have a prettier place to camp. Pretty much. With that being said, you know what, Kevin, Ben, Cheryl, Martin, Donald, Gord for trying to pop in, Nate. Thanks everybody for your input tonight. You know what? Good show. I really enjoyed this. I'm glad that we finally were able to bring it to air, Kevin, because we've discussed this many, many times in the past, and we finally made it happen. So that's a good thing. So thanks very much, everybody, for participating. I'm just going to get you all into the basement there, so stick around. Maybe we'll have a little after show party here. I know I still got a beer here I haven't even cracked into yet, but and you know what? Cans are allowed here, so that's cool. So I'll talk to you all in a little bit. Have yourselves a great night. All righty. So everybody that stuck around for the entire show, thanks very much for tuning in. Like I said, this is our second last show of the season. Join us next week there. We're just going to have a fun evening next week. There's going to be no topic per se. I think we're going to be doing a little bit of review on a bunch of the shows that we've touched on in the past this season. And just going to have a fun evening of it. Come join us. Let's have a celebration as we're all getting ready to set out there and, do our own canoe trips or hiking trips or front country camping expeditions, whatever it might be. Just come on back and join, have a good time. And look forward to seeing y'all. Anyways, if you haven't already done so, please do hit that subscribe button and hit that thumbs up. We're at about 75 thumbs up. Let's see if we can sneak a couple more in there, and that would be awesome. Thanks very much. We'll see you next week. Check us out on Facebook at Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show so that you're up to date on what's going on. And just to let you know, in the off season, there might be a couple of sneak-in shows, a couple of shows that might pop in here and there, depending on what's going on over the summertime, because, a lot of interesting things do happen. So by all means, stay tuned there. Anyways, I'm Dennis, Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show. Have a great week, and remember to keep the adventures alive. Cheers.